I'm going to call the meeting to order. Laura, will you call the roll, please?
Stu Boyd.
Here.
Denise Chapman. Lori Goebel.
Here.
Don Kirk.
Here.
Alexandra Lessem.
Here.
Nancy Rumfelt.
Here.
Mike Scholl.
Here. Nancy, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Nancy. And Denise, our mission statement, please.
The Thompson School District will be a school district that empowers, challenges, and inspires students, faculty, staff, parents, school leaders, and community members to learn, achieve, and excel.
Thank you, Denise. We'll move then to agenda item 2.1, which is the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Board, hopefully you've had the opportunity to review the agenda. Do you need a minute? Are you ready for me to entertain a motion to accept? Okay.
So moved.
Motion from Alexandra.
Second.
I heard seconds coming from both places. You guys
Dawn
have a-
down here. Who's Dawn down here?
All right. Second from Dawn. Any discussion? All right. Laura Lee, will you please call the roll?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Lori Goebel.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfelt.
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye. All right, we'll move then to public participation. Item 3.1 is a presentation by Thompson Valley High School, so come on down.
Good evening, President, members of the board, and Dr. Heller. I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm one of the assistant principals at Thompson Valley High School. My name is Jeremy Lanter. At Thompson Valley, we are intentional about offering multiple pathways for students to be successful. Whether students are pursuing advanced placement coursework, concurrent enrollment opportunities, or engaging in career and technical education programs like ProStart, our goal is the same: to ensure every student graduates college and is career ready with meaningful opportunities, options, and a clear sense of purpose. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce Aaron Bender, who leads our ProStart program and exemplifies the incredible work happening at Thompson Valley High School to prepare students for life beyond high school. ProStart is a powerful example of this work in action. Through rigorous hands-on learning, industry certifications, and authentic professional experiences, students are not only gaining technical skills, but also developing collaboration, problem solving, and professionalism, skills that transfer to any post-secondary pathway they choose. Under Ms. Bender's leadership, students are connecting classroom learning to real-world careers in hospitality, culinary arts, and beyond. This program reflects our commitment to meeting students where they are and empower them to achieve their personal and academic goals. It is my honor to introduce Aaron Bender to share more about the ProStart program and the impact it's having at students at Thompson Valley High School.
Thank you, Mr. Lantner. ProStart is a culinary arts and hospitality management program through the National Restaurant Association and the Colorado Restaurant Foundation. During the 2-year course, students learn about the front of the house, the back of the house, entrepreneurial skills, and culinary skills. All ProStart students receive a ServSafe food handler certification and have the opportunity to earn their ServSafe management certification as well. This year alone, 75 Thompson Valley students had the opportunity to receive 3 college credits through Metropolitan State University of Denver. And with the addition of the Pathfinder internship next year, we'll be able to offer students up to 10 college credits for completing the hospitality pathway at Thompson Valley through Metropolitan State. ProStart has been at Thompson Valley for 8 years now, taught some board members' kids. So we've seen the positive impact it's having on our current students, as well as the lasting impact it's had on our previous students. Before I talk about the current impact of the program, I am thrilled to introduce to you Connor Grasmick, a ProStart graduate, to share with you his experience.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your guys' time tonight. I am Connor Grasmick. I graduated last year from Thompson Valley, and I took ProStart my junior and senior years. ProStart was a very, very fun and great experience. I got to learn more than I ever thought I would about the culinary, from front of the house, back of the house, to even just cooking food that I, in a normal state, wouldn't have ever made on my own. But besides working on everything culinary, you also get to build a strong relationship and team building aspect with everybody that's either in your class, if you're working at a company, anything like that. We were able to participate in the ProStart State Tournament competition, which it's a management and culinary based competition. You get graded on a point scale depending on how you perform. It's a very, very fun opportunity to work with others and get to grow and learn. And it helps you use these different forms and techniques that you learn in these classes to help further show your skills. And as she had mentioned, there is that college credit opportunity. And in any sense, having that opportunity to use courses that you took in high school as, even if it's elective credits towards your degree in college, or if it's even specifically for culinary, it's always helpful to anybody who signs up for the classes. So yeah, ProStart was a very, very fun experience, and I am so very glad that I was able to take it in my time at Thompson Valley.
Also joined with us tonight is Landon Hovland, and he was your student chef for today for the turnover. So if we can get a little mini round of applause if you guys enjoyed those. And thank you again, Connor, for your insight as well. Some additional alumni I would like to highlight. Jaden Schatz graduated 2020, worked as a GM for a hotel in California from 2022 to 2024. Brooklyn Kovias graduated in 2023, earned her manager's certificate during her senior year, and was working at Runza. Runza then gave her $1.25 an hour raise for that certification while she was still in high school. Daisha Malorano, sorry Daisha, I pronounced that wrong as always, graduated in 2022, and then she was an Ascent student, and then went to Colorado State University and has graduated last spring with her family consumer sciences degree. So if we can get that extra FTE, I want her. Emerson Sanford graduated 2025, completed the program her junior year, and she applied to ARIRA, which is Registered Youth Restaurant Apprenticeship, and trained under Chef Nick at the Urban Field Pizza. After the apprenticeship ended, she was hired and will be attending Escoffier in the spring. Aurelia Kemp, 2025, was promoted at their job at A&W in Berthoud during their time in ProStart and received raises for her credentials. Titus Hargrave and Cody Johnson, both 2025, work at the restaurant at Mariana Butte. Both of them had started while in school and are able to still continue their work there. Titus accredits ProStart for his ability to graduate high school. His speech is way better than I will try, but he gave it to Theo and Schaefer last year. It's good. He hopes to start culinary school in Texas next fall. If he chooses the Art Institute, since he has his certificate of achievement, he will be able to enter with getting his entire first semester covered. So he won't have to duplicate those classes. Dre Balke and Marin Rossman both completed ProStart year 1 and 2 their junior years. They weren't done with the program yet, but we did not have a ProStart 3 opportunity for them. So unfortunately, for Northern Colorado, we don't have as many apprenticeship opportunities as Denver, but Dre was able to get on with the RIRA apprenticeship through Comet Chicken, and then Marin Rossman worked at the Restaurant Association, was not able to get an apprenticeship, but was able to start working at Josh and John's for extra money with her credentials. Marin also was on our third place management team in 2024 and received over $2,000 in scholarships that she'll be able to utilize next year. Currently, I have a number of students working at various businesses, including LeMay Assisted Living and their nutrition services, Poorhouse, Sonic, Little Caesars, Into Juice, Cold Stone, the District in the pool system and also IT internship, Freddy's, the Black Steer, and I'm sure I forgot to list some. I love watching students learn while they're in the kitchen and hearing about their aha moments while they're at work and how the classes help them approach a hard conversation with the manager, how to apply for jobs, how to resign from a job appropriately to keep that relationship, how to ask for references, how to ask for more money, which has been a lot of fun this week. We're emailing bosses, texting bosses, and like, why? it's hard, but the worst they can say is no, let's ask for that money. So that's been really cool. I love providing as many opportunities as possible, from the industry experience field trips to working with different restaurants to Denver Food and Wine. Thank you for your time and continued support of the ProStart program in Thompson School District. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Let me turn myself on here. Board, any questions? Go ahead if you have one.
Thank you. Just wondering, you mentioned scholarships, and what percentage of the students apply for scholarships, and then as far as receiving scholarships, and what's the varying
Yeah, that's a
dollar
great
amounts?
question. So we have a couple different scholarship opportunities or like pathways for that. The biggest scholarship pool is through the Colorado Restaurant Foundation, and that closes in January. We've had Titus Jurgensen from 2021 receive a $2,000 PepsiCo scholarship that was renewable every single year. So that's our largest one that Thompson Valley has received so far. During what Connor was mentioning, ProStart State, it's CPSI. So competing in that one, you have to hit third, second, or first place to get scholarships. And then, so Marin's total was 2,000, but it's like 250 here, 500 here, depending on if she goes to those schools. Emerson was on the Escoffier team for 2 years, so they will have $500 for each competition they competed in. So when they start in the spring, it'll be $1,000. Anytime they compete at Escoffier and they go to Escoffier, they get that scholarship. So that percentage is a little bit higher. So I would say that like 10% of my students do hospitality after this program. So I think it's important to note that 50% of all adults in the United States have worked in industry at some point in their life. So like Connor was going for computer sciences. He worked, I'm so sorry, not restaurant? Yes, Connor was working at Metrolux, so he was able to take all these skills that ProStart gave him, go use that credit as elective credit at CSU, and so it helps him personally and professionally, even if it's not that direct route. But hopefully we'll get more people entering the hospitality industry, and if then they're going to college, there's a lot more scholarships available, but you have to have committed to a hospitality program. Thank you for that question.
Any other
easier
questions,
ones?
board?
What kind of demand do you have for the classes?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. With scheduling, it's a little challenging. So the last couple years, I've been getting right around 75 students who want it. So that would either be really huge class sizes or 3 a little bit smaller class sizes. So we have cut back on our culinary offerings for our freshmen to offer these programs. So my ProStart 2 is kind of small this year. So hoping that will kind of even out a little bit more as the years go on, but it's just been hard to rebuild since COVID. But yeah.
I'm so glad to see you here, because I remember when the program was down at the Forge, and there was one year where we went down there for the competition, and it was so fun to watch all of the students practicing, and we were, of course, testing all of their work, which was a lot of fun. It was such a hardship.
Yes.
But I'm curious to know, because once that the previous ownership closed down and then Grimm Brothers moved in, I know that there was concern about where was the program going to move to. So I would love to hear, how did you find a solution to that? And so how is this program being done now? Because I thought the Forge Center was a great way to
I think
do
that
it.
would be a great way. And if we can discuss with Dr. Heller and secondary director, so sorry, I don't have their name off the top of my head. I think that partnership is still available if we could get over the fact that they sell beer. Poorhouse sells beer. My students work at Poorhouse. So I think there is different avenues. How I've accommodated it, I'm just not able to be self-sustaining and cater. So I have to rely on student fees. I have to scrounge up any donations for food that I can get, because without the Forge would allow us to cater and make money off of our food.
Right, and it also, because of the way the kitchen was set up, it just allowed, I could see the students were able to just develop so many more of their skills.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that that's what was holding
That was
holding it
my
back?
understanding from last year, that Theo did not want to push it because it was a brewery, but I think we could talk about it more.
Maybe
And
maybe we
options.
could.
But yeah, that commissary kitchen is great, and they did remodel it with the intent of having classes up there, which has been so awesome. And then Amber Wharton at Loveland has a good partnership with Beggar's Gate Church off of 29th, and so we've used their kitchen before as a commissary kitchen for a couple catering events we did last year. Yeah, thank you for that.
All right.
Okay,
Any
sweet. I'll
other-
pass it back to Jeremy.
Any other questions, board?
Or anyone else?
All
Do we have
right.
time for more? Thank you.
Before you all leave, one of the highlights of the evening for us is to take a picture with the students. So can we do that? Or do you have more of your presentation
I
yet?
believe Mr. Lantner has some closing statements, and then we would.
All right, Mr. Lanter.
I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to talk about Thompson Valley High School. We really are very proud of our programming and the opportunities that our kids have after they get out of our school. So thank you, guys.
All right. Hey, guys, come on up and the board will come down.
You should go. Yeah, you should both go. You should too. All right. I'll see. Yes, actually I can. What do you know? Excuse me. Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
We'll proceed now to agenda item 3.2, which is awards and recognition. And I'll turn this over to Dr. Heller.
Thank you. Good evening. We do have some awards and recognitions tonight, quite a full house, many because we have a lot of students to recognize tonight. So we'll start with our Martin Luther King Jr. event. Heart and Soul hosted the 37th annual Loveland Celebration honoring Martin Luther King Jr. At Mountain View High School just this past week on January 15th. We had Thompson School District students who were challenged with creating a piece of art, writing, or music that aligned with the night's theme of We Cannot Walk Alone. So I'm going to ask you to help me recognize these different groups of students as they come forward. I'm going to start with our writing contest winners. So all of our students who were writing contest winners, put that slide up. I think you're good. You should know who are Mackenzie, Oakley, Sergio, Arav, and Chloe. Are you in the house? I'll have you guys come forward here. No other? Rob, you might be the only one in the house tonight. So we'll have you hang out just up there for a second while we bring the rest of the students forward, hopefully some of our art contest winners. How about our art contest winners? Any art contest winners in the house? Please come forward. We got lots of you. And then we have our music contest winners. One of them's already up there. Arav is already there. Lainey, come on up. Board, do you want to do a picture with these amazing kids as well?
Sure, but I wonder, in order to save time, if we can ask you guys to stick around for a second, then let's go ahead and do the other recognitions, and then we'll take pictures of the kids in
Okay, so the next group of
different groups. It'll save us a little time, I think.
So the next group is our Betcher semifinalist to winners. So if we want to move forward with those, okay. You want to do it separate? You want to do the art? Okay, let's, because the next ones too will be our Betcher kids. All right, I guess we're doing it. Yeah, let me talk about each of our Betcher Award semifinalists. We had 7 TSD students who have been selected as Betcher Scholarship semifinalists, and some of them were able to attend tonight. First, from Berthoud High School, if you'll wave when I say your name, a special congratulations out to Haley James and Benjamin Klopper. Loveland High School's Elsa Anderson and Ellery Ann Bowersfield also advanced to the semifinals. From Thompson Valley High School, we have Noah Kreitzer and Trevor Leidig. And finally, Mountain View High School senior Joshua Neerman. If you don't know, so the Betcher Scholarship is a 4-year, full tuition and partial living expenses merit-based academic scholarship that is awarded to graduating Colorado high school students. Award recipients, on average, rank in the top 2% of their graduating classes. It is one of the most competitive and prestigious programs throughout our region. It is an exceptionally high honor to be named as a semifinalist, and we're very proud of these 7 students. One more time for them. We'll bring them all down? That's it. All right, so we're going to bring all of you around here to the front of the dais here, if you will. We're going to take a really big picture. Let's have the high school kids in the back with the board, and we'll get the not quite as tall.
Okay, let's try to squish in as much as we can. Let's do like, I think so, we'll see here. All right, let's see how wide I can go. Actually, not too bad. Okay, whoops. All right, everybody look here for me. Ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Okay, I think I'm going to start going around your side, Mike.
Okay. I'll give the mass exodus just a second
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah, we'll take a second, allow people to get settled, and then we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah, we have one more item, Stu, on the recognitions
right.
before I move on. Okay, I'm going to move to the next part of our awards and recognition. As I think many of you might know, January is National School Board Appreciation Month. We're honored to recognize our incredible board members. Their dedication, guidance, and unwavering support strengthen our schools and help each student to thrive. We appreciate all you do for the TSD in our community. There's some posters in the room. We have some cards in the back room that were made by students and staff. I do want to read the School Board Recognition Month proclamation, if I could. There's a lot of whereases, so just hold on tight. Whereas the mission of public schools is to meet the educational needs of all children and to empower them to become competent, productive contributors to a democratic society and an ever-changing world. And whereas local school board members are elected by their community members to do what's best for students. And whereas local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And whereas local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now, therefore, we do hereby declare our appreciation to the members of the Thompson School District Board of Education and proclaim January 2026 as School Board Recognition Month in the Thompson School District. Please join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and in working with them to mold an educational system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. Thank you. That's it.
All right, we'll move on then to agenda item 3.3, which is public comment. Dawn, would you read the introductory statement?
Because the board wants to hear the viewpoints of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, it will schedule time during its regular board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. The board will set a time for public participation prior to the business portion of the meeting. The time for each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized once. If there is a large number of speakers, the board may elect to take comments for 1 hour before the business meeting and conclude public comment after the business meeting. Public comments and questions at a regular meeting may deal with any topics related to the board's conduct of the schools. Speakers may offer such criticism of school operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. Speakers' remarks should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. Personnel matters will be discussed in executive session. Finally, as a reminder to all present, the board and staff do not respond to public comment. This is our opportunity to hear from students, parents, and patrons. The board may discuss public comments later in the agenda or on future agendas. Okay.
All right.
Is the timer working? Okay, so we're going to have our electronic timer again, which means that in front of you, you'll see the numbers. It'll count down for you. First up, we have Bailey Long.
Am I good?
You're good.
Okay. Hello, my name is Bailey Long. I'm a junior at Loveland High and have been a varsity volleyball player for the last 2 years. Throughout my volleyball career, I've always been searching for more opportunities to shine, more playing time, more reps, and chances to get better through different coaching staff. But when I tell you I've never had a coach like Natalie Carrasco, I mean it fully. She may have only been the head coach for 2 seasons, but she changed the name for Loveland Volleyball and Loveland sports in general. Loveland has never been a school that has had outstanding volleyball record, but that all changed with Natalie. Natalie wanted it as bad as the players did. She would do anything she could to make us improve as athletes. She showed vulnerability, which not a lot of adults want to do with a bunch of high school girls. She would cry when our goals were reached, and when they weren't reached, we sat right back up to find the next goal to accomplish. That part didn't come naturally, but Natalie didn't let us let it sting for too long because she knew something deep inside of us wanted to keep working hard. Natalie also took the time to get to know all of us. I very vividly remember a time when I was on the verge of tears the entire practice and she could tell. She took me aside, looked me in my eyes, and told me there is no pressure, which there wasn't. That one quote will forever be engraved into my mind. You may think the girls on the team only got close with each other, but it was even easier to get close with a coach that truly cares for each and every one of us. From what I've heard about how she was let go, which is quite a bit, a statement was made about how she was using verbal aggression, which is interesting because what's a coach without discipline? I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but players aren't going to succeed if it's all sunshine and rainbows. She's going to discipline us. She's going to get mad at us at certain points of the season, but that's my favorite part. It makes us work hard and instills drive into us. The girls on the varsity team range from 15 to 17 years old. With some of us about to be adults, I think we should be able to manage a little bit of constructive criticism. I'm not only infuriated by how she was let go, but I was frustrated by the lack of support. It was her against herself. No one asked about a witness. No one had any evidence that the statements that had been made were true or untrue. It's unfair that she felt alone in a moment where someone should have been there to stand up for her. Instead of any help she could have gotten, the people that fired her wanted to get it off their backs as quickly as possible and take the easy route. I'd like for someone, somewhere, to be considerate of what they have done and the damage they have caused to someone's family, someone's legacy, and above all, someone's passion they have in the sport. I've truly been sickened on the fact of how this all went down. Thank you guys for your time.
Ashlyn Mayer. or McTier.
Good evening. My name is Ashley McTier, and I am a junior at Loveland High School. I am also a member of the volleyball program. I am here tonight to speak about the former head coach, Natalie Carrasco. I have played competitive volleyball for many years. I have played for various club teams and school programs, and I have worked with a long list of coaches. Throughout those years, Natalie has stood out as one of the top coaches I have ever had. When I was a freshman at Loveland High School, Natalie was my coach for my first high school season. She believed in me the way I haven't seen a coach do before. Even though I was quiet and a scared player on the court, she encouraged me to break out of my shell and leave all my fear outside of the gym. Therefore, since she broke my shell in the gym, I am here tonight breaking my own shell to speak up in her honor. What sets her apart from other coaches isn't just that she knows the game. It is that she knows how to teach it. She is a perfect mixture of a coach who is constantly jumping and cheering on the sidelines after a good play, and a coach who will correct you as well as push and encourage you to be better after a bad one. She also runs the program better than any coach to possibly fill her shoes would. She set up team bonding games for the entire program every practice. She had varsity watching film before and after games to help the team recognize their strengths and weaknesses. She ran a very productive, fun, and organized program. She made sure the teams in the program were always there to support and cheer on each other while they were playing, which isn't something I've seen in other programs. Not only is Natalie a fun coach, but she's a driven one. Joining varsity for the postseason and traveling with them to state helped me see even more why Natalie should stick with this program. She's led the team to state 2 years in a row, which hasn't been done in a program in a very long time. When you have someone who is this successful and who has the support of her players, I don't understand why she needed to be let go. As a student athlete who has dedicated years to this sport, no matter the level, I am asking you to listen to our voices. We have built something incredible over the last 2 seasons with Natalie, and we want Natalie to be the one to lead us forward. Thank you.
Hannah Gattinella.
Hi, my name is Hannah Gattinella, and I originally thought I'd be speaking before my daughter, Bailey Long, to give her the courage to step forward and speak. However, obviously she didn't need that. I just want to tell you a little story about how when we heard that Natalie was let go, what transpired in our household. From the email that we received that she was being let go, within minutes I called Mr. Havard and had a discussion with him about it because I wanted to hear from him what had happened. And Bailey came home in tears and sat down and wrote what she wrote. I did not help her. I did not incite for her to come in here. She came to me, and within that afternoon, she said, I'm going to the school board to talk to them about this. And so I'm not going to talk about the injustices of how it went down, but I do feel I've been coached since I was very young to the highest level. I've been a coach at many levels, including high school level, and I have never seen something like this transpire the way that it did for Natalie without any help as far as looking at what actually happened and the people that were actually there. So in order for me to be a true, I guess, in spirit of being in front of Bailey and helping her to use her words to talk about this and to speak truth to the situation, we just want you to know, going forward, I know there's nothing that can be done about this, but going forward, I think there should be some type of rule in the process, some due process, where these coaches that you have to actually look at and see what has transpired that led up to this point, because there wasn't any of that. And I also spoke to Kevin about this as well. So that's all I have to say. She pretty much said everything. So thank you.
Claire Witt.
Hello. My name is Claire, and I have a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. I provide services to clients here in Larimer County, as well as throughout the state. The last time I was in this room was about a year ago, and I heard a lot of hateful comments from various community members blaming trans people for their mental health struggles. And I would like to use a part of my time to speak on the reason why trans people struggle with mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and suicidality. A study published in the National Library of Medicine in 2019 found that gender-diverse clients were more likely to meet criteria for mental health diagnoses when compared to cisgender people. Another study, published in the same library in 2023, found that experiences of daily marginalizations and non-affirmation increased symptoms of anxiety and depression for these people. And for clarity, to be marginalized is to be excluded from full participation in life due to identity, to have barriers to essential services and resources. And maybe you've heard this statistic before, but when LGBTQ youth have at least one accepting adult in their life, their risk of attempting suicide goes down by 40%. And I work with these folks, teenagers and adults alike, every day. These people are not struggling with mental health because of their gender. They're struggling because they face harassment, being misgendered or called the wrong name, being stared at in stores, followed, kicked out of bathrooms, being barred from playing sports with their friends. Their sense of self is attacked at the micro, meso, and macro levels. And so since I'm at a school board meeting, I just wanted to thank you for policy ACE3 regarding discrimination, and I hope that you continue to uphold that on behalf of these vulnerable students. So this sentiment comes from a non-binary person I know who went to Thompson Valley their whole life. This person recalled the first time that a teacher called them by their chosen name. It was years ago, and they still remember how nice it felt. They told me it felt like respect and like they belonged. They say it set the precedent for how others should refer to them at school. And they told me that having their correct name and pronouns used incentivized them to raise their hand in class. They weren't afraid anymore to speak up in the classroom, answer a question, ask a question, and it helped them be a more productive student. So I thank you for all of your support for these kids, and I hope that you keep fighting for them, and I know that I will as well.
Deb Adams.
Good evening, Dr. Heller, President Boyd, members of the school board. My name is Deb Adams, and I live in Loveland. My remarks tonight are directed to Mrs. Goebel regarding her statements at the school board meeting on December 17th, 2025. I will focus on her comments regarding her religious beliefs, since there really is no controversy among school professionals about the critical importance of family engagement. I will quote directly now. If your policy and programs would have shocked the parents of 1975, I believe it has no place in our schools in 2025. Many things have shocked all of us in the last 50 years. For example, the tremendous advances in technology and innovation are indeed shocking and have improved the lives of countless citizens around the world and in our own country. These advances would have been impossible without strong public education and the never-ending desire to understand our human existence. Which leads me to her statement regarding her openly Christian worldview. Each person's worldview is unique to them as individuals with different experiences, attitudes, values, and expectations of the world around them. A Christian worldview, even if shared by many others, is not superior or inferior to another. It is simply a different perspective. Board Policy BPIHAL gives clear direction to school professionals regarding teaching religion in our public schools. Here are some core principles outlined in this policy: secular, academic, objective, respectful, cross-cultural, factual, religiously neutral. These are principles which guide the people who are trusted daily with the education of our students. I believe those same principles should apply to every member of this school board. To quote Mrs. Goebel one last time, our children, our parents, and our country deserve no less. Thank you.
Darren Barrett.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Darren Barrett. I'm a local lifelong resident here in Loveland. Been around a long time. I'm a property owner and taxpayer. In fact, clue you in how old I am. I'm one of the first generations to go to Walt Clark and then go to Thompson Valley when Loveland became big enough to have, gosh, 2 high schools. So I'm also one of the individuals that applied to be on the Bond Oversight Committee. While I've got a pretty lengthy resume on nonprofit and volunteer efforts, professionally for the last 25 years, I've been involved in the industrial mechanical trades. I currently hold what they call a universal HVAC license. I can practice refrigeration and air conditioning in all 50 states. That's administered by the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States. I recently served a 5-year contract with the local branch of the Department of Energy, taking care of all their extreme cooling and heating needs in a critical infrastructure environment. In fact, I got a coin of excellence here from the administrator, coin of excellence for serving under conditions during the COVID pandemic. I'm quite proud of that coin there I got from him. So once again, I hope you consider me for your Bond Oversight Committee. If you have any questions about my credentialing or history, I'd be happy to share that with you. Also like to talk with you all a little bit this evening about the urgency of getting a board member here to serve on the Loveland Urban Renewal Authority. That's very important, first of all, because there is a LURA meeting tomorrow night at the City Council chambers, and we really need somebody who's very, very knowledgeable about what's going on in the history here in Loveland, who's very knowledgeable about these metropolitan districts and special taxing districts, because they are in fact competing with the school district for our tax dollars. You need to be aware of that and look at some, ask critical questions about what's going on with the Urban Renewal Authority. If you don't understand that part of it, certainly you need to ask questions. The only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. So hope you can find a willing volunteer that's knowledgeable to serve on the LURA board, and we really need one desperately. There is some controversy right now, but I think if we have a good person who can look at that and get through it, I think it would be great. So hope you take that in consideration. Thank you.
Jana Lewis.
Good evening, President Boyd, Dr. Heller, and members of the school board. Happy School Board Recognition Month, and thank you for all you do for our community. My name is Jana Lewis, and I'm here today to talk to you about Thompson Education Support Professional Association. As you consider the formal recognition of TESPA as the bargaining agent for our classified staff, I want to share why this partnership is the right choice for our employees, our district, and most importantly, our students. TESPA is not a new presence in our schools. We have been representing and advocating for classified employees for years. We are a member-run, member-driven organization that understands the unique pulse of our district and classified staff. Because our leadership has the duty to reach out and listen to our staff, we act as a bridge, helping the administration identify both the bright spots and the challenges within our buildings. The desire for this representation is clear. Over 60% of our classified staff, more than 540 individuals, have signed a petition asking for TESPA to represent them. These are the people who keep our schools running, from our bus drivers to our paraeducators. But our commitment extends beyond the walls of the schools. TESPA is deeply invested in the success of Thompson School District. We have a long history of organizing support for Mills and Bonds through our affiliation with Colorado Education Association and National Education Association. We bring powerful resources to the table to ensure those elections succeed. Whether it's participating in community events or attending board meetings, our members are active, engaged, and present. When recognized, TESPA will take on the responsibility of supporting all classified staff. We provide essential safety net support for staff issues alongside significant member benefits ranging from free life insurance to discounts at thousands of retailers. Furthermore, we're committed to professional growth. Through CEA Co-Pilot and partnerships with Adams State University, our members access high-level training in school safety, de-escalation, behavioral support, and many other opportunities. This isn't just about labor, it's about building a more skilled, professionalized workforce for our district. At the heart of everything we do is a simple principle: we put kids first. We believe that when classified employees are supported, respected, and heard, they are better equipped to provide a great public school experience for every student. We ask that you honor the voices of the 540 plus staff members who have spoken informally to formally recognize TESPA as their representative. Thank you for your time and your dedication to all Thompson School District employees and students.
Hi, I'm Nancy Meredith. I live at 1620 Maryland Court here in Loveland. Thank you, Superintendent Heller, President Stu Boyd, and board directors. As a former Thompson teacher, I have a vested interest in Thompson schools and its impact on the Loveland community. As a Board of Education, I thank most of you for your service, and I know you realize you have been elected to serve and represent all students, staff, parents, and leadership at a level of inclusivity where everyone represented feels safe, welcome, and an integral part of the Thompson community, regardless of gender, race, religion. This brings me to my main point. In December, newly elected Director Lori Goebel commented that she could support only issues which were religious-based. I need to bring to her attention and yours that religion has absolutely no place in a public education system. That is why we have separation of church and state in our Constitution. By making this statement, Lori Goebel's true colors of why she's on the board was made very clear. As educators, it is our responsibility to do just that. Educate students so that we can have productive members of society, critical thinkers who are able to think without indoctrination of religious rhetoric and ideology. There are schools for that, private religious schools. As a Board of Education, the job becomes one of maintaining the inclusion of our diverse community, accepting and including all populations, as I know most of you believe. We cannot let the extreme thinking of a couple of board members hijack the purpose of public education. Again, thank you for this opportunity to speak, and again, thank you for your service. I can be reached at 970-215-2817. Thank you.
Bonnie McDermott, Loveland. I'm speaking about Nancy Rumfeld and Lori Goebel's behavior. Nancy Rumfeld and Lori Goebel's far-right, bigoted, and hateful agenda is not acceptable in our public schools, where every child is different and has different needs and cannot be treated as a set of building blocks. Nancy's behavior has escalated, and if the last few weeks are any indication, our district is in for a long political ride that teachers and staff do not need or have time for. Nancy Rumfeld and Lori Goebel and their supporters have no reservations when it comes to bad-mouthing other board members and, sadly, even teachers and principals. They follow Nancy's lead, as they have done with her budget and audit conspiracies. Our schools should not be your subject line on radical talk show radio shows and podcasts of advanced Colorado. Parents should know by now that they cannot trust anything either of you say or what you put out on social media. I urge the board to censor both of you and keep you off committees. I support the voters who want to recall both of you as soon as can be done by law. There are others who can certainly do a better job than you have, and they will do it with integrity, honor, respect, and facts. For you both to resign would be the right thing to do and is what is best for students, teachers, staff, and yes, our district finances. I can be reached at 970-310-8016. Thank you.
All right, that concludes public comment. We'll move then to the report section of the agenda, beginning with agenda item 4.1, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Boyd. So I'll start off by just saying that we are pleased to welcome our students back. We had secondary students back in the classroom on January 7th and elementary students back in the classroom on January 8th. I think the first half of our school year went well. It feels like it went by really fast, but it went well, and we're off to an exciting start already. We also held a district-wide professional development day on January 6th. This was an opportunity for staff members across the district to engage in both online and in-person classes, to collaborate, to continue to grow as a team and helping them to, again, provide the best education for our students. I want to provide a thank you to Berthoud High School. They were the host of our third session of the Thompson Leadership Academy. That group continued learning about several of the district's programs, including student support opportunities, athletics and activities, and our family, school, and community partnerships. Participants also took a brief tour of the library at Berthoud High School and learned about the unique makerspace that is held at that school. The Leadership Academy is a 7-month program designed to connect community members with district's important work and services. The participants learned about the district's educational programs, operations, and funding models, et cetera. We already talked a little bit about the Dr. Martin Luther King event. Some of the board was able to attend. It was an honor to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King with our community last week. There's a tremendous partnership that exists between Thompson School District, the City of Loveland, and the Thompson Education Foundation that makes that program exciting. A highlight of the event, as you saw earlier, was seeing the incredible talent of our students, both through their artwork, their essays, and their music contests. I want to specifically thank our staff in each of the buildings who encouraged and supported our students in submitting these creative ideas. And we also owe a huge debt of gratitude to Dr. Maria Gabriel from Thompson School District, who is really a driving force behind that celebration. I also want to spend just a minute, well, it might be more than a minute, talking a little bit about, to the board and the community about an issue that's coming up down at the state capitol right now regarding something called the specific ownership tax. I think most of us know what this is. This is the annual tax that we pay when we register our vehicles in Colorado. So currently a portion of that tax is distributed to school districts to help fund operations. As most of you are also aware, the state is in the middle of a fairly significant budget shortfall. And to address this, there is a proposal being discussed at the State House to change the school finance formula and count more of our local specific operating or specific ownership tax revenue towards the local share of our funding. So in the simplest terms, what this means is when the state would count more of our local vehicle tax as a local share, they would be able to give us less in terms of their total funding. This is a budget cut. It is not a fix. For Thompson, this cut would be approximately $3.5 million. That there is no other way to recoup those dollars. It would be a straight cut to our budget. We do not have these funds sitting in a side account. We already budget this money every year as part of teacher salaries, programming, transportation, all of those things. It is just also distributed based on a district's mill levy. So it very specifically creates a situation where the districts like ours who have passed either a mill levy override or a bond are hit harder. So the state would essentially be using our local community's generosity to justify reducing its own funding obligations. What I'm asking for anybody in the community, including the board, to do is to reach out to legislators, make them know that this is not something that you think is the right way to handle K-12 funding. It will be a very devastating thing to K-12, not just for Thompson. I've talked to districts all over the state. There are districts who are losing $20, $25 million due to this potential change in how the funding formula works. So more than anything, I want to create awareness. I think if people can reach out to legislators to let them know that they don't agree with this way of doing business, this is not a fix to the budget, this is a cut to K-12. That's it for my report.
Thank you, Dr. Heller. Any questions for Dr. Heller regarding that report?
I can't believe what I just heard. It's the specific ownership is tax that they assess, and it just seems like they keep wanting to take away. We had the marijuana funds, which, again, it's a mystery where they're all going. I mean, I understand that they need to cut the budget. I think that there are other ways that they could look to reduce their spending on things that maybe the state shouldn't be spending, but don't cut spending on things that is an obligation of the state. I don't support.
Any other comments or questions? Nancy? Or pardon me, Lori, I mean.
Question is, what is the bill number? And who are the sponsors on this bill?
I don't know if there's an actual bill. This is kind of going through the budgeting process right now, and it's being discussed. It was essentially floated as an idea for how to balance the budget, to create a statistical, scientific way to balance the budget. It is a cut to K-12. I do not believe there is a specific bill associated with this. I do know that Bob is also probably going to talk about this during his financial update as well. So, yeah.
And yes, for you, President Boyd, because you're keeping a pulse on the.
I'm sorry?
Are you keeping a pulse on the legislative set area, or is that more in Dr. Heller's wheelhouse?
Both of us. I don't know that this has come up
Right.
yet through CASB.
It hasn't yet come to the CASB membership.
I will
So I'm hearing this for the first time, just as you are.
Yeah, this first kind of popped up as a possibility when we were actually at CASB. I heard about this for the first time. I shared it with a couple of board members as I heard about it, and I was still trying to wrap my brain around it. Since then, we've had a number of meetings through CASE and the Colorado School Finance Project around this issue, so we all can try to understand what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, and what we should do about it. So we're all kind of learning as we go, and a lot of crossing fingers and toes that it actually goes away and doesn't happen, because we know how devastating this will be, not just for us, but for all public schools.
And
So in response to what you just said, tomorrow, I just made a note to contact someone at CASB to bring me up to date as much as he can at this point and suggest courses of action for us as a board. Thank you.
And I do believe what Dr. Heller said, for us to reach out to our legislators and then possibly maybe find out where this is originating or who's possibly going to sponsor a bill such as this, and even reach out to those legislators as well.
Right. Okay, thank you. Board, any other comments or questions?
I guess I would just also throw in the mix of this, which is that the Colorado School Finance Act is the most complicated in the nation and frankly has not met the needs, right? And every time that we get to the point of thinking that we might be able to look at it holistically and fix it for its flaws, it gets kicked down the road, right? Because it's complicated, because there's pieces that different people like in different ways, and then that becomes an area of contention. And so what ends up happening is these Band-Aids, and then they have further impacts, or they might solve one part of the problem only to create another problem somewhere else, right? And so I just want to throw that out as part of the talking points to go along with this, which is that as long as our legislators aren't taking on the real challenge of fixing school finance in Colorado in a significant way, these little bits and pieces and parts that they're putting together is creating this Frankenstein's monster that ultimately falls to kids and educators to take the burden of. And I really think that that's unfortunate as well. I think that when we talk about the budget, we need to take care of the obligations and figure out how do we do this better than we're doing it now.
All right, thank you. Any other board comments? What I will do tomorrow is contact CASB and ask for a statement as soon as they can provide it regarding this particular situation. As soon as I receive it, board, I will send it along to you and to Dr. Heller. Okay. All right. That takes us to agenda item 4.2, which is board reports. I suggested to the board that they talk to us, each other, and you about either a committee meeting that they've attended, a program, an activity, etc., something that is Thompson School District. And so, Dawn, I think I'll begin with you.
So I actually haven't gotten to do much of anything for the district after we got back from the holidays. It feels like I blinked and we're here. And so I went to some meetings that weren't my committee assignments yet. I've done things that are for the people that I'm close to, but I haven't been able to do a committee meeting or anything else yet, sadly. So this is the little quiet period before everything gets busy. Hopefully that means that I'll be rejuvenated in time for all the busyness that comes in the spring.
All right. Thank you. Denise?
So I had the opportunity to attend my first Thompson Education Foundation meeting. This is the group that drives a number of activities that help our students, our staff, and the community. And just to learn how this group works in terms of raising funds, the budget challenges they have, the upcoming activities around preparing for prom and the gathering of gowns and finding a place where students can go to try on things. So all of these things that help students who financially can't necessarily play activities. Thompson Education Foundation is there for them. And I'm thrilled to have that as a committee assignment this year. I also have a family pie. I'm meeting next month with the special education, early childhood education group, and working with that group. And then I'm also on the audit advisory group by benefit of being the treasurer. So it'll be a busy year. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Alexandra?
So last week I went to the JIC, the Joint Insurance Committee meeting, which I've been on for quite a while, and it was a little bit sobering, speaking about financial issues within the district, basically looking at the insurance premiums and how premiums are stacking up against payout costs. And our district is doing okay. The CEBT, the trust as a whole, is not doing superb right now. It's fine. They're not going to go under or anything like that. But there are a lot of big claims out there that are causing the insurance to pay out a lot. We will be meeting next month to talk about sort of our renewal. Our insurance renewal is every year in July. And so we'll be looking at, starting next month, looking at what that's going to look like for July, and looking at sort of some different options as a sort of precursor. The groups, so mostly city groups, cities and the municipality groups renew every year in January 1st. So those ones just did, and their renewal cost was up. Their rates went up 14%. And so we're looking at something kind of close to that, unfortunately, which is a lot of money. And so just sort of a warning of things to come. It's going to be take some looking at how, what other options there are as far as looking at other, if we want to leave the trust entirely and go to other groups. They're looking at that. Also next meeting, we'll be talking about, they've been doing an RFP, looking at some other companies and things like that. So that was a little sobering. More to come on that. And then I'm excited. I am newly joining the SEAC, the Special Education Advisory Committee, that I'll be attending the first meeting of that next week, or not next week, next month, that I'm really looking forward to. I attended one meeting of that, filling in for, I think, Amy when she was unable to go. And so I'm looking forward to being a more regular member of that group starting next month.
Thank you. I'll conclude. So Nancy, I'll move to you next.
So I appreciate President Boyd's suggestion. I would, though, like to talk about something that I feel that is important. None of my committees have started meeting yet. So I'd like to talk about that the TSD community reflects a significant diversity in demographics, backgrounds, and values. For too long, many in our community have felt unrepresented by those seated at the dais. For that reason, it is a positive development that the board is becoming more diverse through the directors elected. It is no secret that Director Goebel places great value in her Christian faith, and I appreciate her honesty about who she is. None of us checks our life experiences or personal values at the door when we serve. I want to reiterate that I have consistently and strongly advocated for ideology to be kept out of the classroom, whether it comes from the progressive left or the conservative right. Classrooms exist to educate students, not to reshape social values or culture. I will always oppose any attempt to insert ideology into the classroom. A board made up of individuals with diverse backgrounds and beliefs is a strength. For the sake of our community, and especially our students, we must model how to respect differing viewpoints and work together effectively in governing the district. We all care deeply about education, all 7 of us. Let's focus on that shared commitment rather than insisting that we all hold the same values.
All right, thank you. Mike?
Thank you. I'll be quick. None of the committees that I'm on have met, but I am looking forward to attending the accountability committee next week, Thursday.
All right. Lori?
Thank you. I just want to give a public thank you to the parents and the community members. Emails and words of encouragement and support to Principal Orr, Sarah Milner, and Principal Essen, Carrie Martin. All the things that we received this evening, the posters and the cards and everything. They're words of thanks to us for the National School Board Recognition Month. I am, too, also looking forward to serving on the DAC committee, and I truly enjoyed the live drill committee meeting, coming away with a greater understanding and seeing more of the facets of an event of this type. I left with a greater appreciation for all involved. I also attended the celebration of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and saw the inspiring projects submitted by the students, and we were truly blessed to be able to see those as well this evening. The I Will Not Walk Alone, but what I heard was the word hope many times. That seemed to be a theme throughout the evening. And so where did this inspirational man get his hope? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist pastor, and he followed in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. And this is somebody who was truly raised inside the church, immersed in scripture, prayer, and the preaching of God's word. Strong in his faith, the hope that Dr. King had was a biblical hope, a confidence that God is sovereign, righteous, and faithful to his promise. He preached often from the prophets where Amos declared, "Let justice roll down like waters." And from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus calls his followers to love their enemies and overcome evil with good. Dr. King believed that the struggle for justice was moral and spiritual, not merely political. For Dr. King, hope was not passive or abstract. The hope he knew and practiced was grounded in the conviction that moral truth matters, that dignity is God-given, and that injustice can be confronted without surrendering our humanity. That perspective is especially meaningful in education. Hope, as Dr. King understood it, is what calls young people to believe their lives have purpose, their voices matter, and their character counts. It is the belief that perseverance, integrity, and respect for others can shape a better future. And I think the program that night has helped me to dig a little deeper into the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So thank you.
All right. I'm the board's liaison to the newly formed Thompson Leadership Academy. And at the meeting on January 8th, the focus of the presentation was on family, school, and community partnerships. I spent my career in the Thompson School District and have now finished 6 years on the Thompson School Board. And I learned things about the district's family, school, and community partnerships that I didn't know. And I want to just hit a few of those. I learned, for example, that at this time, Mountain View High School, Lincoln Elementary, Edmondson Elementary, and 2 or 3 other schools are now part of an FSCP cohort that is federally funded and that is focusing on family-community partnerships with the schools. I learned about something called TSD Connected project, which involves home visits and family connections. The purpose is to deepen family relationships, to build real and trusting relationships with educators, students, and family. I learned that the Family School Community Partnership program in our district currently has 8 specialists. 7 of them work at title schools, 1 at the Family Center, and they focus on improving the partnership between school, family, and community. And I'll close with a quotation that was projected onto the screen at the Thompson Leadership Academy session. A school striving for involvement leads with its mouth, telling parents how to help. A school striving for engagement leads with its ears, listening to parents' dreams and worries to build true partnerships and not just serve clients. And I mentioned to Dr. Heller, he was there as well, after the session, that I think at some point it would behoove us as a board, perhaps during a study session, to have the folks in the district who actually work on FSCP in Thompson give us a brief presentation on all the things that our school is doing to promote this particular partnership aspect. So that takes care of the board reports for this evening. We're going to move then to the next item on the agenda, which is action consent items. Board, is there anything you want to pull off the consent agenda?
No, I just only have a comment, which I can do after the motion and second.
All right. So I would entertain a motion then to approve the action consent items.
Motion to approve the action consent items as printed.
All right. Did you get that, Laura? All right. Discussion. Go ahead, Nancy.
I only wanted to comment, and so when I was reading the personnel recommendation, I'll be honest, I was surprised to see Janice Marchman's name, and I first met her in 2011. And so I know that she's, education is a major part of her life, and so I'm sad to see her leave the district, and I only hope that she's leaving to go pursue a more exciting opportunity in education, and I hope that she stays in education because I know it means so much to her. But I just wanted to say something publicly to thank her because I know she's worked here for a long time, and I've been familiar with her since 2011.
All right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, let's proceed then to the vote. Laura Lee?
You need a second. Oh,
It was seconded.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear it.
All right.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Denise Chapman,
Aye.
Lori Goebel,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Alexander Lessem,
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld,
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 7-0. So the action consent item section of the agenda is approved as printed. We'll move then to the next section, which is section number 6, discussion action items, beginning with the approval of the Loveland Urban Renewal Authority Commissioner representing the Board of Education. Let me give you, Board, a little additional information before we go any further. The appointment of this individual will be for a term of 5 years or until the commissioner becomes ineligible. The commissioner will share the LURA agenda and make regular reports to the board and seek guidance on how to vote on major actions of the commission. With that, are there any questions before we move to nominations?
It seems odd, 5
Yeah,
years.
we were surprised by the 5 years as well, but it is in their bylaws.
All right. If you have a specific question on this, I think Mr. Ebersol probably could answer a question if there's one still out there. Would you like him to come up and answer? Do you have any questions for? Okay. All right. I would then entertain a motion to nominate someone to be the Loveland Urban Renewal Authority Commissioner representing the Thompson Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Mike Scholl. I know that has a great bit of understanding of this being part of city operations and wearing a different hat, but getting to see this stuff in different ways. And he has, I think, an insight into this particular type of government interactions that we haven't had on the board in my time here, that I really think adds a good representative voice of asking the right questions to really hash out both practicality of decisions as well as impact of decisions. So I'd like to nominate Mike for that reason.
All right. Are there any further nominations?
I would like to nominate Director Lori Goebel. I know that she is often a constant present within the city council meetings, so she's well aware of what's going on there. I also believe that her experience on the Planning Commission helps her to understand many of the issues that have come before the city and what the development means in the city of Loveland. And so I think that she would make a great representative to the LURA board representing the school board.
All right, thank you. Are there any other nominations? I'd entertain a motion then to close the nominations.
So moved.
Right? All those in favor of closing the nominations, please say aye. Oh, we probably should do roll call, right? Laura Lee? Okay. Do we need to call the roll on this? Yes. Okay.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Lori Goebel.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Alexander Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye.
All right, the nominations are closed. We'll proceed then to the vote. Nominated first for our LURA representative is
President
Mike Scholl.
May I make a comment, please?
Sure.
I just wanted to make a comment is that when we originally sat during the study session back on December 3rd, I was the one who did it. I expressed interest in that, serving on the LURA board. And at that particular time, and I know we were all new to this, or at least Director Scholl and I were new to this, and at that time, there was no objection to my serving on the LURA board from any of the directors to go and at least temporarily represent the board at LURA for the upcoming meeting. and which I did attend, and which was mainly an executive session. But I just wanted to reiterate the fact that that I did put my hat forward on that. I have been, as far as other experience, is clearance by the CDOC, and then also my experience on the Planning Commission. And I guess if a lot of concerns that have been raised here as of late, if there was a proof of that, of me not being able to represent, especially on the Planning Commission, people that came there felt heard, they felt respected, and there were lots of compliments and comments to the City Planning Department in regards to the entire board, but especially as my time as chair of that board.
All right.
So I just want to thank you for that opportunity to share that.
All right. So I will repeat then. We're ready to proceed to the vote. All those in favor of Mike Scholl, do we do this as a roll call vote then too, Laura Lee? How does this work when there are two candidates for a position? All right, so by that, do you mean that, for example, when my name is called, I would say either Mike or Lori? Is that what you mean, or no?
But I just for clarity's sake, I mean, wouldn't approving one then nullify the other?
All right. Mike, you were nominated first. And so I think we will proceed then to the vote. Laura Lee, please call the roll. And when your name is called, indicate if Mike is your choice to be our Laura Commissioner.
Stu Boyd,
Mike is my choice.
Denise Chapman,
Mike is my choice.
Lori Goble,
No.
Don Kirk,
Mike?
Alexandra Lessem,
Yes.
Nancy Rumfelt,
No.
Mike Scholl.
Yes.
All right. So if I was counting correctly, the vote is 5 votes yes in favor of Mike Scholl becoming our Laura Commissioner. All right.
Sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but we voted, but now do we have to do a vote to formally, or is that, am I overthinking?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right. Thanks to both of you for your willingness to have your name submitted for this important position, which we have modified in terms of its duties and so on moving forward. So I believe then we are ready to move to agenda item 6.2. All right. Agenda item 6.2 is the approval of the proposed 2025-2026 amended budget. And I'll ask Mr. Ebersol to come forward.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Heller. My name is Bob Ebersol. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and with me is Zach Moser, Director of Finance. I'd like to start with some good news. We received our rating from Moody's for the bond issue. They have affirmed our current issue of AA2 general obligation for tax ratings, which is a very high rating. They have stated that they've assigned a stable outlook to the issuer and underlying ratings. We have also assigned a AA2 underlying and AA2 enhanced ratings to the district's general obligation bonds, Series 2026, in the approximate par amount of $99 million. So that's the bond issue that the voters voted last year. So that's very good news. And then before I start, I'll echo Dr. Heller's concern about the specific ownership tax information. I just emailed you information from the Colorado Finance Project, which gives you detail of what's going on. It originally came from the governor's office, but the legislature is looking at this point. It is their statement of speeding up the full funding of the School Funding Act, but based on analysis that is not moving in the way that it would be realistic to that actually happen. So that gave you more information, and you'll be, I'm sure that other information will be coming to you forward at this point. As to the budget, there are usually 2 times that the board votes to amend the budget, January and in June. We did not do that in June, which basically, based on what the auditors said, we should have, so that we didn't have expenditures greater than what was voted. So we are coming to you for some general areas to be changed for the budget, and I'll go through those. Zach will be talking about a little bit on one of the items. And this is, we will come back to you again as the year goes through the year. There may be actions that you take during the year that are effectively budget changes, but we won't call them official changes until June. So for instance, last year when you approved the sale of the Monroe School and you approved the spending of that money, that was technically a budget change. We didn't include it in our budget when we did the June budget. That's now included in this information. Also updating of fund balances. So we get the budget out to the people in April and May. We get it to you for the study in June, and then we vote the beginning fund balances at your second board meeting. But we haven't closed June. We don't close it until July, August, and September, and actually until the audit is actually done. So you're actually voting estimated beginning fund balances for the year. So now this budget will bring the actual fund balances for the various funds that were actually audited and approved. In June, we do an estimated of the pupil count. Pupil count runs through the entire format of formula for funding. We get the final count in October, and then it's certified by the state in January, so that's included. That turns into affecting the funding that comes in from the School Finance Act. We have updated that. That's actually going down. Adjustment to revenue expected from local mill overrides. We're conservative when we estimate in our budget for what's available. It will depend on what the cap is and what's the assessed value. As we talked about during the bond process, the assessed value went up tremendously, not on necessarily into people's properties for a reassessment, but because of new growth. So that allowed us to raise additional funding on that part. And I apologize, the original spreadsheet that went out had last year's mill levy at a lower number than it actually was, so that changed some of the formulas as we went through it. The formula, the final budget is on the Diligent website. And then the other things that we've talked about is adjustments of personnel from Medicaid funding. We've done an assessment of making sure that the staff that were charged to Medicaid, whether they are eligible or not, and we have adjusted those. And then we've made, Zach will talk about the grant funds, and then as a result of the mill levy and the taxes there, we share that with the charter schools, so we actually have to appropriate that. That's in there as well. Those are the major items on that. So the funding, the mill levy, the general fund, as a result of the mill levy and the reduction of the School Finance Act, we're increasing revenue by about $1.4 million. I've talked about the $1.2 million of moving Medicaid salaries from the Medicaid grant program to the general fund, and $333,000 for the charter funds. I'll ask Zach to come up and talk about the line item regarding transfer to grant funds for the beginning balances.
Good evening, Dr. Heller, President Boyd, and then board members. Just wanted to speak a little bit about the items on the grant funds. Laura Lee, can you forward over to the grant funds? Oh, so 1.3, just to give you some history, as we got into the position here, one of the things that had been languishing for quite some time with the grant funds is that they've had negative fund balances for quite some time. And so working with CLA, they recommended and we advocated for a one-time transfer from general fund to the grant funds to right-side those fund balances to get it to the square one so that we can better track the revenues and expenses. And so that's really what that 1.3 shared between 22 and 28 represents. And then when we're looking at these two slide decks, as we're getting our budget process and when it comes to reporting and better accuracy with grant funding, just when we have updated and better information when it comes to the awards and the budgets that are allocated to our grant funds, that we're taking this opportunity to just right size them to what we know right now. The net difference on these balances are not large, but when we're going into the just on the spirit of being as accurate as possible with our finances and what's in the system, that's why we're doing what we're doing here. So really the takeaway here is that injection into these funds is to get those fund balances to square one, and then we'll monitor those more carefully going forward, so we know exactly, so they should always be zero at the end of the year. And if they're not, it's merely because of the timing of when we're getting our grant funds from one month to the other when it lapses over a fiscal year. So that is kind of in a nutshell what these two last slides represent, and really are what they represent. So.
And so what that is the last step of the 2024 audit process, where there were findings to say we need to revise how we manage our grant programs. Again, no money was sent to the wrong person. Nobody stole any money. It was how it was accounted for. In some cases, we may have had the money and it was left in the general fund, but the expenditures were left in the grant fund. So all of that process, Plant Moran adjusted a lot of those during the 2024 audit. This is the final part of that part. The slide regarding, I talked about the sale of Monroe and just carrying forward the various capital projects that you've previously voted, such in the Energy Efficiency Fund. In addition, as was discussed during the bond proceeds, we're now including the bond money that was appropriated, and now will be going forward. We still have, as a result of the bond reconciliation process that was done at the end of last year, we had some additional carry forward. So this is being the last of that grant program. And whatever is spent will be spent out of here. Anything that's left will go back to the original source of the funding. So it's a lot of different things going back and forth. So we appreciate Board Member Goebel's eagle eye on checking some of our typos and things like that, so we appreciate that as well. And so I would be open to any questions on the amended budget. We will be asking you for a vote to amend this at this point.
All right. Denise, any questions? Alexandra?
I just have a question about when you were talking about the grant thing. I just want to clarify that I'm understanding. There was the 826,000 transfer from the general fund. Is that what you were talking about, to get them all like equal to or to zero or whatever, to rather than being in the negative?
So let's see, let me go back to the other part. There's one transfer to federal fund grants and one transfer to state and local fund grants. The total is about 1.3 million.
Oh, okay, so the one, okay, so the first, okay, so there's the federal grants one. Oh, and then the local grants one. Oh, is that 470? Okay.
During the audit process, the auditors were mostly focused on the federal funds because that has a higher level of audit issues. The state funding is still concerned, and then local maybe an individual grant, it has less of a concern on audit function. So those are usually, we'll get to those at some point. We're doing them today.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy?
I have a couple. So the first thing is, so Zach, you went into what one of my questions was, which is on the transfer from the general fund to cover the negative balances of those two grant funds. I still have a little bit of pause for concern, because many times we would hear that the negative balance was due to timing issues. And I understand that that can happen because of receipt of funds. And I know that you guys have been working really hard at cleaning up a lot of processes and stuff. I guess it's just a little concerning that 1.33 million is going out of the general, which already we're having to, a little bit of deficit spending there to cover these grants. So again, just anything you can do to help when these situations and we see something to ensure that there's no longer going to be a negative, and to really help us see the detail. The timing is specifically for these reasons, and list out some specifics. I think that would go a long ways for someone such as myself to understand that it is truly just a timing issue. But I really, again, appreciate you guys. I know you guys are trying to clean up a lot of different things.
And to answer your question, we talked with Plant Moran today as our last call with them, and one of the things we talked about was this transfer, including what Zach will be doing is that, for instance, if we have expended funds in June and we submit the funding to the state and they send it to us after 60 days, 90 days? 90 days. If they send it to it after 90 days, we will have a deficit because we will say it's a deferred revenue. We will be explaining that in the financials for June that will be coming to you. So the answer is yes, we will report those anytime there's a negative.
Okay, so are you saying that you would now start utilizing the deferred revenue to help?
Zach has already started doing that during this year.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question is, I was a little surprised to see in the capital projects, the 1.1 million for the Loveland High School ball field that has been approved for a while. And if I'm thinking correctly, is this the one that was approved in October 23 at Berthoud, when we were approving different things for use of funds, the contingency funds? Or was this approved later?
So this is approving the beginning balance, correct? You're good.
So the 1.1 that we're referring to here is back in April when we had Plant Moran help us with this bond reconciliation. And there were these three projects left to be done: the Ivy Stockwell, the water retention over at Big T, and then this ball field were those three items. And so from Fund 27, we were appropriated these funds in order to finish those projects. And then compared to that budget, this is all the timing, all those expenses hit over on after July. And so in order to make sure that the budget is on the right side of the fence, so to speak, that's what this represents.
I just would like to still clarify, the original approval for this ball field, though, that has been for a while, hasn't it? And I believe Todd Piccone knows that.
Correct. I don't know the exact month.
Is there a reason why it's taking so long to get this? This money's just been sitting there when there are other things that could use that money specifically for ADA.
The timing of the ball fields, I'm not sure. I mean, like, Todd, if you want to come up here and speak to it, I'm just like versus what was approved in April when I was there, versus what we need in order to.
Right, and I realize you don't know all the history, and maybe Todd could come up and
So this is
explain.
to get the money in there in the amended budget. A lot of this has already been spent. So this is not. So this is to get the accounting in there, whereas so this is the expense to get it in there so that the expenses that we've already paid are authorized in addition to whatever's left. as
So
money.
the money's already been expended?
Not 100%, but most of it is.
But most of it?
Yeah.
But it just hadn't been accounted for in the capital projects?
It's been accounted for, but it's never been brought to the board to approve to be expended.
I see.
You
Okay.
approved it to be spent there, but it was never put into this fund as a board authorization for each fund.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
The way it reads like it's,
It's new, it's not.
Yeah, okay,
This is-
gotcha.
This is housekeeping, unfortunately.
okay, no, I get that and I appreciate that. I'm in the midst of that with a client right now, so I can understand. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mike?
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
All right. Lori?
And no questions, but thank you for that explanation on that.
Great, thank you.
Dawn?
I just, first off, want to thank you for continuing to nail this in, like, ratchet it in and make these changes and get it to where it's more clear, presented more often. And then what strikes me, and this struck me as I was looking at it for myself way before we got questions and we met this evening, is that the challenge with anything like this is that nothing ever, especially in this, works out to where like there's a day where it's how you want it to look. And that is going to be true. And I just really feel like it's important to say that because the invoices don't come in on time, or the funding doesn't come in on time, or it's reimbursement instead of, us being able to count on the money on the day that we were supposed to get it. There's been a lot of funding challenges as far as timing this year especially that cross my mind as I look at this. When we talk about grants, I'm terrified about the idea that we're talking about spending more of the money ahead of time only to not know if we're actually going to get it every day. And so I just want to acknowledge that you're really constantly trying to reflect accurately the finances of the district, knowing that this is about capturing the commitments financially, the outlays, the specific numbers, and what we think the numbers were going to be, as well as keep track of when were we going to do this and who did it and when and why and how did the project go or the work go or how many people are we funding with it. A budget reflects so much. It's one way to look at the district and the nuts and bolts of it. You've made it a lot easier for us to do that, which I truly appreciate. I really like seeing the grants. I think that this is the most detail we've ever had on that. And then I got worried a little bit, but you guys know a lot more about this than I do. And so I'm mostly saying this for the public that has the knowledge level I do about this, which is that we're zeroing it out, cleaning these things up. But again, we just won't have that day where June 30th every year when we're closing the books, we get to where it's like, yep, it's clean. I wish it would happen, but that literally will never happen. If it does, I want to know about it. We're going to celebrate because there's always these things going in and out. And so thank you for trying to keep so much better track of it, to clean it up, to make it clear. And I know it's been a massive undertaking. You've been doing it since you got here and you were doing it, carrying the torch before. So thank you for all that.
Thank you. And I will thank the other staff that we have within business services and the grant department over in title within learning services, because the reality is in the past, as is true of some organizations, it's the CFO doing all of it, or the CFO and the director of finance doing all of that. It is now shifted to we all, the departments, so when they apply for a grant and to the state for reimbursement, that is now recorded. It's not waited until the cash comes in. So all of the things we should know, we're trying to get that. We'll never be perfect, but we're going to be closer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bob and Zach. I think we're ready to proceed to a motion to approve the 2025-2026 amended budget, so I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the amended 25-26 budget.
Need a second?
Second.
And the second from Lori. So that was a motion by Nancy, second by Lori. Any discussion? Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Lori Goebel.
Aye.
Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 7-0. We're going to move to agenda item 6.3, the approval of State of Colorado interest-free cash flow loan program resolution. And you're on again.
Great, and thank you for that previous vote. So the board voted in June to approve up to $25 million of borrowing from the state's interest-free loan fund. As a result of the budget amendment, as we raise more taxes on the School Financing Act tax portion, they give us less state aid. The state aid comes to us on a monthly basis. The property taxes come in March, April, and May. So therefore, the more property taxes we have, the less state aid, so therefore the higher cash flow. The state only allows us to borrow what we absolutely need. Zach has to do a cash flow for each drawdown, and they recommended that we increase the limit from 25 to 35 million just to give us the flexibility, because there may be a time period where we may have to have a higher part. Theoretically, there may be a delay in property taxes, although I understand the tax bills just went out. We're asking for your approval to the 35 million instead of 25. We do not pay interest on this, and we only borrow what we absolutely have to.
All right, questions, board? Beginning this time with Alexandra.
I have no questions, thank you.
Nancy? Mike?
No.
Lori? Dawn? Denise? All right, nor do I. So we're ready to proceed to a vote. I'd entertain a motion to approve the State of Colorado interest-free cash flow loan program resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Dawn,
Second, Denise.
second by Denise. Any discussion? Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Denise Chapman,
Aye.
Lori Goble,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem,
Aye.
Nancy Rumfelt,
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So that's a 7-0 vote then?
Thank you
to
very
approve
much.
that motion. We'll move then to agenda item 6.4, the approval of the 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting calendar amendment. And that will be either Dr. Heller.
Yeah, I can.
That's Dr. Heller.
Sure. So as we discussed at the study session, this is an amendment that would change our April 1st study session to April 8th due to a conflict on that April 1st study session with the beginning of Passover, which starts at sundown. So we're asking the board to consider and discuss and take action on making that change from April 1st study session to April 8th. Again, that meeting will be at Big Thompson Elementary School.
All right, board, any questions, beginning with Nancy?
No questions.
Mike?
No, none from me.
Lori?
None.
Dawn? Denise?
No questions.
Alexandra?
Just verifying you checked with Big Thompson that it's okay with them if
Correct.
we change it. Okay,
Yes, we did.
perfect, thank you.
I don't have any questions either. So I'd entertain a motion then to approve the amended 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All right, did you get that, Laura Lee?
Second.
Okay. All right. Let's proceed then to the roll call vote.
Stu Boyd,
Aye?
Denise Chapman,
Aye.
Lori Goble,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem,
Aye.
Nancy Rumfelt,
Aye.
Mike Scholl.
Aye.
All right. We'll move now to discussion items. Item 7.1 is the financial update. Mr. Ebersol, you're back up.
And I'll be asking Zach to come up as well. Just to give a number to what Dr. Lessem mentioned about the 14% increase for health insurance, it's estimated to be $2.6 million for next year. So starting the year with $2.6 million worth of more expenses, not to mention the specific occupancy tax. So we're trying not to lose sleep as we get ready to start the budget process for next year, which is in process at the moment. So the financial, I'm going to do an overview and just have Zach talk about some of the philosophy of what we're doing at this point. This is a continuing work in progress as we learn how we do accounting within the system. Because a lot of the reports in the past were brought up to a very high level, as we try to bring lower level reports, we're finding that they're not jiving. So we appropriate to this number money for schools, but we spend it in the middle school, the elementary, and the high schools. So that report over there says you're spending more than your budget because there's no budget, and you're spending under here. We're still looking at the budget together. We're trying to create a report here that's bringing it down to a next level for the board to get a high-level report. And there's additional reports that we're creating for the actual departments at this point. Again, we're meeting the budget. We're doing the various things. Zach will talk a little bit about that. This is also giving you early indication of what the new budget software format's going to be. We're doing weekly calls with this software company. I describe it as that Zach is building the plane while we're flying the current one. We are now sending out, or Brittany will be sending out, budget forms to the departments using the old Excel format. By the end of the year, when we come to you for the budget, hopefully we're going to have this Excel budget thing that's going to turn into new software by the end of the year. May end up happening after the end of the year, but we're trying to design the system in the current Business Plus, so we upload it to the software and they download it back and forth, that it's going to be useful to everybody there. Talking to the cabinet members and department heads to say, all right, is this the way you want your budget to look? Is it going to be useful? So as we've talked about the challenge of the budget for the next year with the health insurance and other things from the state and federal government and our own current challenges, we want the budget to be able to be looked at as a way of saying, well, we need to increase this or decrease here and have it be useful instead of just the CDE technical required budget format. We're still going to do that because we have to, but this has to be a programmatic budget as you can say, where are we spending our money and does it make sense for our students? So I'd like Zach to come in, just give a brief overview of our current report.
Okay, so this table, I'll start by giving a kind of a tutorial as to what you're actually looking at, because there's a lot of information on here. And what this really is showing is the snapshot in time as of November. And so when we're looking at this, I've included some narrative below to kind of give the elevator pitch as to what these variances are. And really, when you're looking at this report here, I mean, I'll just put your eyes to the bottom line. So if we're looking at that over under a column, we're looking at $17 million under budget year to date. And really what that is explaining the drivers as to what makes up that number and what you should know. And so that's really what this table is trying to tell you. So when you're looking at this, what I always have people look at is the year-to-date. We look at the 37% at the very bottom of the table there and compare that to how far we are through the year. So if we're 37% of our way through our budget, but 42% away through the year, that means we're 5% under budget year-to-date. And the explanation to that is really going into I don't want to get too accounting on it, but the accruals for what salaries were paid in July and August, but actually moved to the prior year. And so this is kind of where Bob and I come from, is how the timing of how our spending goes, and that's where that year-to-date budget comes in value. And so when we get more sophisticated with this, what will end up happening is we'll take that budget that was allotted in the front side of the year and put it in the back side, because that will reflect actually how the spending will happen. And so really what that bottom box is giving your elevator pitch as to what is going on in all these variances. So in a nutshell, really what the story is on this is those salaries in schools, middle schools, high schools, and those being accrued back. And that is kind of explaining why that 5% is. So this is showing that everything is is the way it was last year, and that's kind of reflected through the prior year comparison. So really what the takeaway from this is, we're trying to explain what's a timing issue and what's permanent, and if it's a timing issue on the budget to actual, when it's going to resolve. And so this is telling us that $17 million under budget is actually a timing thing, because when we get to the end of the year, this year, that accrual will happen again, and it'll wash that favorability out. So that's kind of really what this, that's really what this table is telling us. Everything, we're on track. We have a lot of timing issues, and what this does is this helps us inform our budgeting going forward. So the things that we're telling the vendor right now and how we're trying to develop this budget, where we get those variances, the year-to-date actuals, the comparison between budgets and actuals are really a lot closer. And so those variances, we can see those opportunities, or we can inform you of decisions that need to be made. And so that's really what this snapshot is telling you right now, that we're under budget, everything's looking good. A lot of timing issues right now, but as those manifest, as we go forward with our December, things will start unfolding as to, like, things that we really need to keep our eye out for, like the insurance that Bob alluded to earlier. And so that's kind of what this table is telling. And it's divided up into the structure that's our org chart. So you'll see we have business services, communications, human resources, IT, learning services, and the lot. So we talk about our finances in the way that we talk about just our daily operations. So it's trying to make sense of the structure and how we're talking about it. And so that's what this is saying. So if, Laura Lee, if you go to the next slide. So this is kind of on the flip side, the revenue side, and this one tells the opposite story. But again, it's really a timing issue because we're talking about this, the interest-free loan. A lot of our revenues, property taxes, and that doesn't come till March. So when we come to the spread of our budget, we'll take what we know now, or not what we know now, but instead of spreading that budget evenly, we'll backload it in. So a bulk of that revenue is expected to come in the later portion of the year. So when we're looking at how we are on track, or how we're doing to our regular plan, that will actually inform us more accurately because our budget reflects on when the timing of that revenue comes in. So again, all of this is a timing issue when it comes to the over and under, but really I'll draw your eye to actually how we're doing with our actuals compared to the prior year. So prior year, we brought in $49 million versus our $51 million. So it'll show you, like, if we compare it up the way we were last year, we're slightly ahead. And that goes into our stabilization. So that'll give you a little bit more of a clearer picture as to, at this point in time, how were we with the money that came in the door last year. And that kind of gives you a little bit better context as opposed to looking solely at one column. So that's really what's going on with this caption here. And then the final slide here, the final slide is really our cash balances. And really, I'll draw your eye to the totals and how we're comparing last year compared to this year. $52 million in 24 and 25 compared to our $54 million that we have in the bank right now. And really, the bottom line between those two snapshots is the $5 million that we got for the energy project, and that's really the difference between last year and this year. And so those really, when we're talking about our when we talk about the way that I look at our finances, is really explaining those drivers, and that's really when I present with these things, right? Really, what is the difference between those numbers and explaining those variances? So I'll open it up for questions or comments or anything that you might have at this point.
All right. Mike, I'll start with you.
I don't have anything, but thank you for that.
Lori?
Zach, I just wanted to say thank you for the elevator pitch, and I appreciate the footnotes at the bottom explaining some of the items on there and giving just a little bit more on the detail. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Dawn?
This actually is a great bookend to what I was just saying about how there's not a moment in time when it's perfect the way, like, everything came in and out at the exact same time. This is helpful because it's that context, right? It's that, do we really need to take action on this, or is it just something that is about the flow of the expenses and the output and input? So this is, I think, really helpful to turn the massive amount of numbers that we have to look at into actual realities for the kids in the classroom. Thank you.
No questions. Thanks, Zach.
Alexandra?
No, thank you. This was very helpful. I appreciate it. And
And Nancy?
Like Lori, I really appreciate the notes at the bottom because it helps explain, puts a lot of things in context. I also like the new format because it focuses more on this year's actuals, this year's budget. There's a little bit of reference to the previous year budget, but not, I mean, there's just, this is what we really need to focus on. I look forward to when the new software is in place so we can see more detail in the spending. But I think this is a great start and it's very useful. So again, thank you, Zach, for all the work that you're doing with this, because especially since I know you spearheaded the budget software purchase. So thank you.
Yeah, and just for, and I'll know that Nancy will like this, is that, so the slide deck, what I made that slide deck out is unadulterated data outside, that came out of our system, and actually it's all in Excel right now, and you can actually dive down all the way down to the bottom line from and where exactly those expenses are located in our system, and that's what I'm used to, and that's like looking at our finances from the highest level all the way down to the basement. So, thank you very much.
All right. We'll move then to discussion item 7.2, the Audit Advisory Committee update.
So at the, again, Bob Ebersol, Chief Financial Officer. At the study session, one of the comments was, how quickly did we need to do this? We didn't need to do it very quickly, but I wanted to get it off my desk. So we have updated the advisory committee to reflect that there is going to be not the appointment by each board member, but make sure that we have a member from each district with a process to be determined, and that it will go through. I made it clear that the term of office is 2 fiscal years for the community members, not the treasurer or the CFO, because that continues on. And then if this description is approved, we will solicit applications that will be due in April. The reality is since we're not going to be selecting a new auditor, that duty wouldn't be done at this point because we've already assumed that it was going to be going forward, but we would get it done well before the initial work that would be done for the audit for the current fiscal year.
Would you repeat what you said about when this committee will actually be formed and seated?
So we will ask for applications. They'll be due in April, and therefore they'll be seated by May or during the month of May.
All right. All right. Board questions for Bob in regard to 7.2, starting with Lori?
So just in the odd chance, do you feel it's very realistic to expect to have a member from each district? I guess that's the first question.
So the answer is we will have one from each district.
Okay.
That's a requirement in here.
Okay, thank you.
Dawn?
I'm just wondering about the timing. I assume you already thought of this, but the thought crosses my mind that it's a very busy time for the budget, which might make it perfect, but might also make it kind of a hard time to bring a new committee underway. And I know we threw a monkey wrench in this by asking how we were doing it and revisiting it. So I just want to make sure that we didn't burden you and your team and everybody else who has something to do with this too much by trying to add this change in at this time.
Thank you for asking that. We're actually moving this budget process for this year up 2 to 3 weeks already. So the FTE process is going through, the communication to the schools is going to happen 2 or 3 weeks before it has happened in the past, which then gives us the information all the way through. So even though you will still vote in June, a lot of the heavy lift is going to be done earlier. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Denise?
Let me know if there's anything as a member that I can do to help with the moving forward of getting a committee.
You will be.
Alexandra?
I'm just curious why in this, I guess it's not a policy, whatever it is, a statement about it, there's a few places where things that refer to the committee's bylaws are all crossed out.
Right, because I don't believe any of our committees have bylaws, so we've taken that part out. There.
Nancy?
My only question is, by doing this by application, what will the process be? You know, I mean, we receive a lot of different applications. I know the Mill Levy Oversight Committee has vacancies.
Yes.
And so what happens when we receive a whole bunch of applications, but we don't receive applications for one or more specific director districts? Then how do we, what do we do then?
At that point, I would look to you to make recommendations, even though that's not the official way of doing that. But we really need to have representation from each district just to get the full geographic coverage.
I absolutely agree.
So that we will make sure that there is coverage and fill in the vacancies.
Okay, thanks.
If I could, one of the questions I might ask the board would be, maybe that's something that we could include in this document to say if there was not applicants from a director district, then the CFO will come to that specific board member and ask them to help find a member from their director district.
I think that's a great suggestion.
I will incorporate that.
Yes, it's your turn.
Just one quick question. What is the timing of this, though? When are we, in terms of?
So basically, so they meet with the independent auditor at the beginning of work. So that's why we want the committee to be formed by May, June, because sometimes they'll do some preliminary assessment, but this audit committee really, that's just give us some bills and we want to look at. We really want them to be involved with the auditor before they really start the work. What are your concerns that you'd want to do? What are the concerns that the community want to know during an audit process? So that's the first part of the audit committee. Then they will become towards the end of the audit. They'd see it before it comes to the board. And then they would come to the board and make a recommendation. And then there will be follow-up after the audit. Is there audit work that needs to be done afterwards?
And so in backing that out too, in terms of I guess the question is, when are we going to go out to the public? Like, how quickly?
I would imagine we'd be putting these applications out in either March or early April is my guess.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
And if you talk to anybody that's going to think about doing it, we have several committees that we'd want you on. So we want them on.
I don't have any questions. Board, anything else before we move on to the next agenda item?
Thank you.
Let's move then to 7.3, which is the annual school utilization update. And Todd, that's you.
Yes, good evening, President Boyd, board members, and Dr. Heller, Todd Piccone, Assistant Superintendent Operations. Tonight, as in every January, we go through the school utilization. What I'll go through first is policy FCA and FCA-R and FCA. They really guide staff through the process of what to look at, the utilization percentage. So here specifically, service level U, which is schools that are under 75% utilized, and then timelines for recommendations if that's the direction we go. So looking at modified capacity, this is something the board has talked about previously, is every year we are very focused on the built capacity. So that means we count the rooms, times by students, we looked at enrollment, and truly what the school is just built for. What we did in this last year was we modified our master plan. Through the master plan committee, to also look at the modified capacity. So what that means is we take the built capacity and then subtract out programs that are placed there or specific modern service spaces. So for example, you look at more modern schools, they have spaces for interventions, and our older schools don't, so we're taking those spaces out of the capacity for how we look at, or how we can look at utilization. And just for note, if you're interested in more information, there's a link there to the master plan and kind of the process and more detail around the modified capacity. So as we look at the 25 utilization, there are 14 schools that sit underneath that service level U. What I would like to point out, though, is just an example of built capacity to modified. So if you look at, say, Lincoln Elementary, when you look at Lincoln Elementary, their built capacity, they're 50%. When we actually look at how the school is being utilized, they're at 110%. So that's something that we've talked a lot about before as we're looking at school closures and utilization, is truly showing how we're using the buildings. Because even though the built capacity shows one thing, there's, in that example, is there's a lot of district programs that are there. Not that district programs can't move, but it tells a full story of how the buildings are being utilized. The only other note I have is Sarah Milner. It also is at 70%, so it would have a service level U next to it. But as you can see, there's 14 schools that fall under service level U, which is at 75% called out by board policy. So without going through each individual school, what I will note is that at this time, as we went through analyzing different developments, looking at the demographics and the growth and decline throughout the district, and reviewing with the master plan committee, staff's not recommending that we go forward with FCA-R, which then shows our timeline of how we actually would put together a school closure and the steps to actually close the school. So this time we're not recommending it, although we are still monitoring, because we do know that year after year we do see some of the same communities and schools underutilized. And there's just a couple other notes that I think are noteworthy as we talk to MPC. The things we have done in the past is we have closed 4 schools in the last 6 to 7 years, so that has an impact. We're also looking at how those impacts, are impacting our community in general. And then as we have this modified capacity, how does that actually impact how we look at the schools moving forward if we are looking at schools for that FCA-R, the closure? The other thing to note is Ponderosa, for example, it sits underneath this utilization. But if you look at the future growth within TSD, there's plenty of growth up there and other places that a lot of these schools actually fit into. So just because they have, that mark there doesn't mean that, there's reasons why they can or cannot be closed. But those are all the pieces we looked at as we analyzed the different utilizations throughout the district. And the other note that I'll put there is it's a pretty lengthy presentation, but if you'd like to see it, we did do a full demographic presentation to the master plan committee, which actually showed trends from the past, birth rates, all the different pieces that go into the projections, for current year, but then projecting forward in the next 5 to 10 years. So before I turn it over to the board, I do want to thank Ryan Baker, our planning manager, because he really has the details and the attention to all the pieces that go into all this. So any questions from the board?
All right, Dawn, beginning with you.
Yeah, so thank you for this. I really do appreciate the modified piece, because I think when we look at part of what this is, the final product of this is to look at like the closures. Moving those programs also has a cost and an impact, and so this helps us a lot. It also helps us to see like where we've been putting programs and maybe where we haven't. Like that starts to jump off the page now that we have it. One thing that would be, I think, helpful next time around, because this is such a good snapshot, is to show with just like up arrows and down arrows that piece that you were just talking about with the projected growth. Because like literally the houses are going into my backyard. They're gonna have kids in it. So Ponderosa won't be underutilized for very long at all, if the dust in my house is any indication. And so that up and down arrow would just really help because we do know that the growth and the decrease is boundary specific. So I love that. I also wanted to just point out one other thing that I noticed is like some of the schools where we just did big changes to like kind of amplify what you were talking about. We built some of these knowing that this is an area where we're having growth, or we wouldn't have had to do the consolidation and the builds. And so I'm glad to see that we're not maxed out before we even really get out the gate, but we will be like growing in capacity in some of those areas. Like High Plains is not going to stop being an area of growth unless we run out of the space. And then we'll probably just grow up because that's where everybody wants to be. So even though it's small now, for the first time in many, many years, it's not going to stay that way. We know that we're still going to have capacity that we're looking at High Plains always. So thank you for somehow putting all this into one chart that was really easy to understand with all of this in it. And I mentioned this week in my one-on-one that I hate this, by the way, but so for everybody who also doesn't like what I'm about to say, I acknowledge it. I think that because the trends are happening where there are just less kids, period, we're not done with having to figure out what this means for us. And we're constantly being asked to balance like the fact that if you are doing something that impacts kids, doing it in the schools is sometimes the most efficient and effective thing. Parents are asking for that over and over again. They're like, I don't want to have to pull my kid out of school. Why can't we just do it there? But we've also heard that that's not necessarily what people want. And so, then we get into the hard choices of, do we use this space that we already have effectively for our community as a community good? Or do we say that it needs to be somebody else's responsibility and it gets put somewhere else? And I think so far we've done a little bit of both. And if we are not putting programs in these schools and if we're not serving families in the way that they're asking us to, then we're going to have to look at consolidating or closing again. And I don't like it. I'm going to be honest. The schools that are on here that we would probably be talking about next, I don't like any part of that. But I also want to prepare our community that I'm bothered by the idea that we're probably going to have to do that sooner rather than later. And I don't want anybody to be shocked by what do you mean that we're talking about that again. So.
All right, thank you, Don. Denise?
I just want to thank your team for providing this information. It's fascinating. And can you just quickly touch on the difference between the built capacity and the modified capacity? What are the exact things that go into the difference there?
So really, when you look at build capacity, we take, in essence, the floor plan, we count the classrooms, no matter how they're being used, and then we times it by the student count. So say it's 25 per classroom, that gives the actual built design capacity. So the modified, we take that same floor plan, but say we know that, there's GT or OT that's taking a classroom, and they've the school has it cubed off, and even though they're sharing a space, that classroom is now offline to students. So then we subtract that from the capacity. So whether it's that, whether it's ILC rooms or specific programs that are put there. So the built is really what it was designed for, and then the modified takes out space.
Okay. So the built capacity is a fixed number in theory?
Correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Alexandra?
No, thank you, and I appreciated the links to that, about the modified capacity and to the demographic presentation. I thought that was really interesting and gave a little bit more insight into the whole process and how this comes about. And I also think it's interesting looking at sort of the changes over time. And I remember, like, and sort of to Don's point about, building schools in anticipation, as I remember the first few years that I was on the board when we did this and looked at Riverview, and it was under capacity. And you said, that was the plan. There's going to be people, and now it's not. It's 77%. And so I think that's, interesting to see how things do kind of flux and change. And with the demographics and, interesting reading about also with like, the area that I live in the central Loveland part, there's not a lot of new kids moving in there because it's, old people like, my family that moved there with little kids, and now our kids are grown, but we still live there. And lots of other people like that. And so, I thought it was interesting reading about that. And that I think is sort of a bigger challenge, is what do you do in those areas where people have aged out? And theoretically, like my family, we should move and make room for a new family to come back in, but we're not all going to do that. So it's just interesting. I think it's a big puzzle, and really kind of fascinating to see how the trends change over time.
It is, yeah, thank you.
I'll save my comment to be the last one. So Nancy?
Oh, Todd, I thought I was going to go to the whole meeting without talking with you.
I'm excited, Nancy.
So on the utilization, I took Dr. Heller, he sent out a board update on, I think it was Friday, that it showed the opt-in, opt-out count. And so what I did with me and my Excel, I took your enrollment number from the utilization, added the opt-out students, and subtracted then the opt-in, so that really it shows that we're like a net of 1125 students that are opting, they're going somewhere. That's a lot. And actually, if you take it times our per pupil funding, that's like over $12 million. That would easily cover the deficit spending that we're doing with this year's budget. It would easily cover it. So knowing that, I think we need to try to figure out why are they opting out. But then we also need to look at some point, I do think we're going to have to look at and figure out that this area is always underutilized, and these developments that we thought were going to happen, they're not going to happen. And more than that, we only have a finite amount of money to work with. So we have to look at, with the money we have, how many schools can we support and support well so that the students can learn. And so that's just it's just a big concern for me. And then I do like the modified capacity, but what I'm trying to still understand is when you say the ILC rooms and the gifted and talented rooms and stuff, they're removed, is that still students that are within that school that are using them, but then now they're for specific use, or is it programs for other kids coming from somewhere else? What does modified capacity truly mean?
It's really both. So sometimes it's school within that community that, or kids within that community that use, say there's an ILC room within the school that, within that boundary, the kids go there. Sometimes there's students in ILC rooms that come for a specialized program. So it's kind of a mix of both, depending on the school. So Lincoln, for example, a lot of the rooms were taken, I would say, offline because they're used for programs. It's students being, almost bussed in there for a specific program.
Is there any, without making it too complex, is there any way to make it's like some addendum so that when you looked at that, you would know, oh, this school's modified capacity is because there's outside programs and/or these rooms? Just trying to understand it.
Yeah, and we do have behind all this spreadsheet is that data that you're referring to. So, we can find a way to get that information out so you can see that at this school it's because of these two programs, or at this school it's this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If I could just add, I just want to add, just around this modified capacity, there's this, as Todd talked about, built capacity, right? So you have 30 classrooms, and you're going to use 25 as our multiplier. But a modified capacity, we know there are some classrooms, because of the specific type of program in that classroom, that does not have 25 kids, right? The capacity in that room is going to be 5 kids. That modifies the capacity of that building. And so as you have a larger number of specialized programs that, because of the nature of the program, are going to have a much smaller student count, it naturally is going to lower the capacity of that building. So that's another piece of that modified capacity, is just because of the nature of some of these programs, we have to lower the if you will, in that classroom from what it was built for.
Okay, and I'll just one last thing on the students opting out. I mean, again, the math is, it's like 9% of that enrollment number. And that's a big number when you take it with our per pupil funding. If we could just identify like what regions and what's their reason so we can find a solution, because I just would like to see that, stop seeing that money leak away from the district.
Yeah, and we do have some of that data of what regions they're going from. When they leave the district, our ability to track kind of goes away, but we do have some of that, yeah.
And we've had some additional conversations around, is there a mechanism within our building when a family does choose to go elsewhere? And not within our own district, but even just to leave our district, to have the conversation, much like we might with an exit interview with an employee who chooses to leave, to have some conversations around what's driving this change for your family. Not every family is going to engage in that conversation, but those who will, it may give us some data in terms of what is the deciding factor that's causing you to choose to leave a school or a district.
Okay, Mike?
I'll be brief because I kind of want to, Nancy kind of stole my thunder a little bit. So sorry. Because when I saw the enrollment numbers, I did the same math piece too, and looked at it, and I was thinking of like, overlaying kind of what, which schools are losing more, and because with respect to kind of doing exit interviews and going through all, sometimes it's just the perception is negative, and we have to change the perception, and that obviously that takes time, there's a lot of things that go into that, which I understand. But I also, it was fun having the cooking, culinary kids there, because I like to cook. And I go back to Gordon Ramsay, who said, don't tell me what I'm doing right, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And I want to understand, if there's specific schools where, not to indict them, but where we need to kind of think about how we can kind of make them better so that they serve as to attract families and not, and stem that tide, because, I agree with Nancy, it's like 10 or 12, millions of dollars that we're losing, for a range of these programs. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I want to, hopefully we can continue this conversation. I was elected, and the last thing I want to do is have to close a school. So I think I do take this very seriously, so thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Lori?
Thank you, and thank you for questions I've been asked and answered, because that was, what other programs, I guess, when I saw the modified capacity, I guess I was looking at, what are those programs? And having an identifier as to which ones are where, I think would be very helpful. And as far as say other programs coming in, the utilization of the schools, maybe for, I don't know, I guess I was just looking at maybe after school programs and stuff, what other uses we could have at some of these buildings, if they are being underutilized, what are some of the other options? Have we looked at other options as far as, I don't know what the possibility of, or if that's even on the table.
Yeah, one thing we're looking at is EC, so expanding EC to some of these schools. So we're working with Lamb Carroll can Namakwa open up? They're underutilized. Can we open up an EC there? And does that create more community involvement? Do you have EC there, and then does that a draw? We have wraparound services with both YMCA and Boys and Girls Club, so we also work with them. Even trying to push to some like BFK. That's one of the schools we push one of their programs to, so students are going there. So those are a couple of examples that we're pushing into, but I'm sure there's other things out there we can think about.
All right, I said I would conclude. I want to begin by talking about the national problem or the national phenomenon known as declining enrollment. Regarding declining enrollment, part of that is due to options that weren't available years ago or that were not as readily available. And I'm speaking of homeschool and private schools particularly. Did they exist? Yes, but were many people using them? No. And I think we know that this particular problem was exacerbated by COVID and everything that happened to public education during that period of time. We know too that people move around. We know that we have a declining birth rate. And when we put all those things together, for me, I don't find myself pointing a finger at our school district or other school districts. I just say that this is a changing society because of the reasons that I mentioned. I want to close by making a comment about the modified capacity standard. I think just about everybody has commented on that. I was on the master planning committee as the board representative when that decision was made, and I think that's a very good decision. I think it adds a whole dimension to our understanding of how or why schools are allowed to continue to operate. And Todd, you mentioned Lincoln. I remember, I believe it was last year, I went to a meeting at Lincoln, and at that time too, Lincoln was at a 50% rate, which might have people thinking the school district should probably close that school. But during the time that I spent at Lincoln and saw all of the programs, all of the busy students, all of the busy staff members there, that building is very well utilized. And it certainly is an important part, and just using Lincoln as an example, just a very important part of the educational program of the Thompson School District. And I think, Ryan, I think maybe you brought that idea to us, or I remember when I was on master planning, you're the one who explained that at a meeting as to what that would look like. I think that's very important, and I'm, as a board member and as a citizen of the Loveland Berthoud community, I'm very glad that we're utilizing our buildings for some of these special programs and that we are able to keep some of these schools open because students are being funneled into that school for the special programs. So thank you, and thank you, Ryan, for all the work that your department does.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll transition then to 7.4, the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee membership selection process.
Yes, thank you again, Board. Todd Piccone, Assistant Superintendent Operations. So as we dive into this, there's really two parts to this presentation. So one is the purpose of the committee, and then we'll talk about how we want to go into selection. But really, I just want to review the purpose. And when we look at the ballot language, shall the spending of the debt proceeds be monitored by a Citizen Bond Oversight Committee? So it's very clear in our bond language that we need this committee and the different pieces they do. I'll note that the committee is not a decision, so they don't make decisions based on spending or budgets. That's board approved. So any budget actually changes would come through the board. But they do look at how the funds we are spending are aligned with, one, the ballot language, because the ballot language is very clear on what we can spend it on, and then two, what the expenditures by school that we're showing are aligned. So it, you know, if you look at past even meeting minutes that are on this site, you know, we go through expenditures, processes, risks out there, and then CBOC would just report back to the board on expenditures, process, and how the overall program was going. I'll say this has been a citizen-run committee, so at the first meeting, a chair and co-chair would be elected. Staff really takes a back seat. We then hand it over to the chair and co-chair, and they go through, you know, all the pieces. You know, there's a couple notes here, but they go through all these pieces, and they just ask staff for information. At the end of the meeting, they ask if staff has satisfied the committee's request for information, and if we need any more. So each time when they left the meeting, we'd say, okay, the committee feels and community group feels like there was enough information or staff need to bring back more. So I go over that because that's kind of how the committee ran last time. As far as the selection process, so just for review, we can do many different things here, but it's 16 members are needed. Previously, we take the applications, the president and vice president would pick 8 8 of the members, so 2 from the financial sector, 2 from the parent, and then 6 from the community area. So we have different areas, between Fort Collins, East, Berthoud, and then Central. And then the other 8 positions would be blind drawn out of a hat. If any of the board members, I would have my little basket. I'd come up during the board meeting and pick a name out of the hat, and then that's how that person was selected. So that's how we've selected before. Those names then came forward to the board for approval, and then the committee went forward. So what we have this year is we actually have 44 applications, and as we heard in public comment, we're getting questions about, we're ready to start. There's some excitement behind it, which is good. So we have 44 applications received. You'll see the first 3 lines there are what the board has selected before. So actually going through the applications, reading them, and appointing those, the 2 for business, financial background, 2 for parent, and then the 4 communities. And then the 8 have been selected at large. So for tonight, the hope is, because we do need to get this going here in March, April, is just to understand if we want to modify the selection process at all, and then if there's any questions or comments regarding how the bylaws really have been put in place for the committee. So staff's just looking for direction because we'd like to hopefully bring that process forward to the board 1st of February for final approval in the second meeting in February. So discussion around that would be helpful.
All right. Denise, comments or questions? Alexandra?
So I think you sort of misspoke because I think last time the president and vice president selected 10, and then there were 6 that were drawn. That's what it says on the slide. And what you said, what you said talked about that the president and vice president selected 8, and then 8 were drawn. But it looks like that's what's proposed for this time.
Yeah, it should have been 8, I think.
Or was it 8 and 8 last time as well?
I believe it was 8 and 8, yeah. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe it was 8 and 8.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that especially matters. But that was just, was unclear about that part. Just because it's different, like I said, it's different what's on the slide.
Yeah,
from
I see
what you
that,
said.
yeah.
And then I think the question was about whether we wanted to continue with the process of the president and vice president selecting those 8 and then having the 8 blind draw, or if we wanted another process for selecting those 8 that are not the blind draw. Is that correct?
That's correct, because right now we have the 44 applications, and yeah, so do we want to stick with that way, or is there another suggested way?
Okay. So, I mean, I guess personally, I don't have a problem necessarily with doing it the way it's been done, but I'm open to other suggestions if necessary.
I'll conclude with my comments. So Nancy, I'll move to you.
I do believe that it's important that this process be done by the board itself. The responsibility for it lies with us. I also think transparency in the process is also really important. What I would like to propose is that we have 44 applications, that all of the names on the applications be redacted. I think there's somewhat of a fear that as soon as a name is seen, that they may or may not be chosen simply because of that. I think that that addresses the fear. You would have your own top secret Captain Crunch decoder list of who is who. And then the board itself would select everyone except for the ones, their names are thrown into hat. I do think that the parent group should be larger than 2. I understand that community-wise, the voters who don't have kids in school is greater than parents in the district. However, to me, parents with their kids in school, they have a greater stake in the game. They have more, so I think it's important that maybe we look at changing the parent group to 3 and the financial group to 3, and then the draw a name out of a hat to 6. But I think if we did something where we redact the names and then your staff says, here's this particular application, they qualify for the parent group, this geographical region, and maybe the business representative, or maybe this one only qualify, and then the board, gets all of those applications, we review them, and in a study session or a voting meeting, we discuss who we would like to put forth for each of those positions, and we vote on it, and then you bring your magical hat, and the rest of the names are drawn out. I think it's very open and transparent, and I just think it's an idea that came to me today when I was getting ready for the meeting.
All right, Mike? Thank you for this. I have just a couple concerns. And one is just having been on a committee of 16 people for the community, it's unwieldy. And I think I was a little concerned when you said the staff introduces and then backs up on that, because I feel like when you have that many people and you've got, hopefully a good diverse group of folks that, maybe aren't as well versed in school finance and funding, and can you explain that a little bit more? Because that caught my attention.
Yeah, so our first meeting is really education about the committee and just the things you're talking about. So financial pieces, how the bond was put together, the goals around the bond. So it's really an educational piece, so they have that understanding. And then what we did after that was put together, the committee said, here's 4 sections we want to learn about. So next time, bring the expenditures, that you've encumbered forward. Schedule, risk, let's look at any risk. So we bring very specific items forward to say, okay, here's the 4 things you asked for. We're reporting back on those. So it's a pretty structured meeting as well. So it's not, I will say over the last 4 years of doing it with that many, 5 years doing it with that many committee members, it was, staff was comfortable in saying, okay, what do we need? Because our goal is to be transparent as we can.
Sure.
So if someone says, I want to see this, what I don't want to do is get in the way as a staff member, say, no, I'd rather show you this information. So it was a way to just open the books and say, what do you want to see? And it wasn't about debating, what was in the bond or do this instead of that. That's not the goal of the committee. It was truly about aligning to the ballot language, expenditures, schedule, and risk.
I appreciate that, and I would hope, or I would encourage early on to very clearly establish what the ground rules are and what the areas that they can influence, because I think sometimes, if you get on the board and it may perhaps come with an expectation that, hey, we can have a lot more influence on the process than perhaps we intend or that the board allows. I mean, I'm for full transparency, and I think it's important, but I want to just establish that those expectations really early, so that the people that volunteer their time, understand that. And I would I don't have necessarily a suggestion per se, but I do think, the business or financial background, I don't know why having a financial background, I mean, I think we put it in there because we're talking about a bond issue, but why can't we have 5 businesses? Just say 5 people that represent the business community that pay taxes or that pay property taxes or something, and parents, and then, because I tend to agree a little bit with Nancy that maybe if we lower the at-large or the blind draw, though I'm not sure, I don't know about the Captain Crunch decoder comment about.
I don't know if we can
how
talk about that,
would
but
yeah. but I hope all of us, and I know Dr. Heller, and we can set aside and any of our try to pick the best, most committed people. I mean, that would certainly be my commitment, but I do think I would be in favor of kind of trying to recruit more people, like from the business community, more parents, and then kind of taking that out of the at-large pool a little bit, and you know, if we could get like a good cross-section, so that's.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the comments.
Lori. Lori?
Thank you, Director Scholl, appreciate that. The sentiments here, I guess, it's kind of this end of the table, just as far as, you know, possibly raising that to 3 or more for each of those other 2 categories. Question is, what communication have applicants received after applying? Because I have had some people say, we put in our application and, you know, I don't know, it appears that they haven't received anything since they applied. I'm sure they received an acknowledgement about the application, but has further communication been sent out? And I guess I would, if it hasn't, maybe send an email saying where we're at in the process.
Yeah, we did send one out shortly after the application closed saying thank you. The board will go through a process selecting, but we can send another one out just to kind of, reconfirm where we're at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that it? All right.
Thank you.
Dawn?
I'm wondering, because you collected demographic information for these groups, correct? As part of the application, like you asked them, do they fall into these, like, do they live in this area? Are they a parent? Do they have a financial background? Like, were those boxes to check?
They were, I will say, not all applicants selected the appropriate boxes.
Of course,
so
but that's fine. I don't always follow instructions myself. The reason one of the things that I am concerned about at this stage is that we asked for some pieces of information, and now we're talking about really trying to decide people based off of information we didn't ask for. So then are we going to have to somehow get that information, which is more work? With that said, we also told people, again, I don't know how many people go out and read this kind of thing on their own ahead of time, but we did tell people that this was, at the time that we put the applications out, the way that we were going to do it. And so I'm sure that there are people who are expecting us to end up being pretty close to this. I think that if we move to be more transparent, we're not going to have a problem. I think that if we're shifting what we're looking for in a group of people and asking for a different set of demographics, then we're shifting it, and that will create extra work, and it will create confusion and issues, even though we have good intentions in doing it. And so my wondering is, for the people who gave us the information on their demographics, can we divide them up into hats? And we select everybody out of hats based off of their demographics that they fall into. So there's going to be a hat for parents, and we're picking out whatever number from that hat that has everybody in it who said they were a parent. We put everybody who is in Berthoud in a hat, and we pick that many people from Berthoud out of that hat. We probably don't literally need hats for this. There's other ways to do it. This is pretty similar to how we've done some of our making sure that we're getting all the people who represent the different groups in other committees. And so it also is aligning with other practices in the district. It means that everybody is randomized instead of having a selection process of any type, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's based then on what did you self-select, because those are the hats you'll be in. And then we're randomly picking people out of it.
One thing, Dawn, though, sorry, if we did that, then you could end up with everybody from Berthoud. Because we don't have a big, it's a small enough group from like, said all the business people or all the parents, either they could all be from Loveland or they could all be from, and I don't know that serves them. I'm just pointing that out as perhaps a flaw in that, but don't mishear me. I appreciate kind of the thinking around it.
Right, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, there is the possibility that if we were to put everybody's demographics on a spreadsheet right now, we're gonna see that we are weighted in some way. And if that's the case, that's the risk in what I just recommended. But if it's relatively random already, then this would just make sure that we are getting people based off of them fitting the criteria that we already told people publicly we were gonna pick them from. And the only thing we're shifting is that we're not asking for some people to select applications based off of some sort of judgment, and instead randomizing based off of your demographics. And that's transparent as well. I do think we could also do a selection that says we're gonna double check those things to say, if everybody did somehow magically end up falling into a skewed way, then we could fix that. That's not a bad thing for us to fix, because we don't want everybody to be from one neighborhood. But if it's mostly random, again, the odds are that it will end up being random.
All right. Let me share my thoughts, and then we'll see where we're going to go from here. Todd, I have a question about the citizen representative section. With 4 representatives and 4 communities mentioned, Berthoud, Loveland, the eastern portion of the district, and the surrounding unincorporated county, is the intention that there would be 1 member from each of those 4?
That's how we did it last time, yes.
Okay. All right. Then, regarding Nancy's suggestion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, did I understand you to say that the board would look through 44 applications and choose members of this committee? Did I understand that that's what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that, yes, we would read through the 44 applications as part of our responsibility and obligation as a board member.
Thank you for answering my question. I consider that very unwieldy. For 7 people to look at 44 applications, I'm trying to think what the time frame of this would be. I personally don't find that that would be necessary in order to do that. So, board, I think Todd is probably asking for some direction. So, Dr. Heller, maybe you may want to enter in here too and provide some direction for us moving forward.
Well, I mean, the challenge here is, we brought this back to the board tonight because there was some discussion when we sent out kind of the process that had been followed in the past. A couple of board members expressed some concerns that maybe a different process might need to be talked about, so that's why it's on the agenda tonight. It's not an action item, it's a discussion item. Certainly, if we're going to do something at the February study session and the February regular meeting, some direction from the board on which way we want to go would be helpful, so that staff can start putting those things together. If we're getting 44 redacted applications put together for the board, then we need to get that done so we can get it out to you in a timely manner so that you can review those. I will be clear, these applications, we really are talking 1 page per application. It's not a significant amount of reading, but it is 44 individual pages about each individual candidate. Not something that we cannot do if that's the direction that we go. If the board, in general wants to continue the current practice as has been, then we'll move forward with that. If there's anywhere in between, we can really facilitate anything as long as we have some guidance so we can be prepared for the February study session to get the ball rolling.
All right. I have another question or comment. First of all, a comment. I think it would be a very good idea to provide a second notification to all the applicants that we're still in process and that their application is still being considered, and thank you very much for applying. Then the other thing, my other thing is a question. Did you receive any concerns, questions, complaints about the way that we did it the last time, and I think perhaps times before, when decisions were made and choices were made by the president and vice president? Were any problems created by doing it that way?
Over the years, no, we did not receive anything.
Okay.
Yeah. And well, just one piece of information that might help. When we talk about business representatives, financial background, I think we had 5 applications that really applied for that. So, not 44 were for that. So the 3 specialized, there's less applications to look through. So, yeah, not necessarily, because round numbers, I don't remember the exact number, but I think there was 30 that just said citizen at large.
Many who only wanted to be considered as in the at-large pool. Then there was a group who really only wanted to be considered as a parent. So there isn't 44 to consider for every single one of these things. You have a select group you have to consider for your parent representatives or for your business financial representatives.
And those applications indicate which position.
So they did. There was a selection. They checked the box. And also in the question we asked of why do you want to do this and how does this relate, that's where you could really see that they had that financial business background and why they checked that particular box.
And so when the committee comes together, everybody has what bucket they fill in on the agenda, or
No.
is it all then everybody's equal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question on because part of it, the regional distribution, the 4 representatives, why is that a separate category as opposed to an overarching goal to say, we've got 16 people, we want to make sure that all 4 areas are represented either as a business, as a parent, and open it up to more kind of more parent representation or business representation or other, because it seems to me that we could meet that goal through our normal selection process as opposed to having somebody designate themselves to say, I'm going to be the Berthoud representative and the Loveland representative. Is that?
Yeah, when we talked about this before, there was just concern that we just wanted to make sure, kind of the finance, that we had specific regions identified. So if there was, something in northern, like the Fort Collins part of the district, that there was someone there that kind of represented those schools. So it was just a way to try to make sure we had all areas covered. And when you look at our unincorporated part of the district, it's quite large. So then that was a thought too. We need to make sure that that's kind of a whole sector or area within the district. So it was a way to try to capture, make sure we had specific coverage in all the areas. But yeah, there's other ways we could accomplish that too.
All right. I'm going to throw out an idea and see what you think about this. Our study session is February 4th. What would you think of the idea of giving this back to Todd after he and his team have heard our discussion, and ask them to, based on what he's heard this evening, to provide us at the February study session a way going forward of selecting the committee members?
I mean, I think that kicks the can down the road. I think we need to select them before, not necessarily on that day, but I think, like we're saying, they're just sort of waiting in limbo.
Okay.
So I think at our, if we opt to do the, Nancy's suggestion and have us review the applications, I think we could do that at the study session, have them beforehand, review them at the study session in February, and then vote on those and do the blind draw at the actual meeting in February. I think would not be unreasonable. I also, I think Dawn's suggestion also is an interesting one in that does take out all, potential bias and so on and so forth if they're all just randomly drawn. But agree with Mike's concern that then if we do that, how do we then know that we are getting the broad representation that we want? So I
Go ahead, Dawn.
Oh, sorry. Could we not sort them by address and then have 4 that fit into the 4 categories there, and then draw one person for each region? And then sort for the rest and do those other buckets?
Yeah, and we can sort them any way that's helpful. So, yeah, if we need to sort them by region, we can definitely sort them by, financial business. There's definitely, by parents, we could have those different buckets, and by the community representation, we could divide those out if we needed to make sure that, we capture the different areas of the district. So, absolutely, we can, yeah, we could do that.
I like the idea of everyone having an, equal chance to be selected.
And it may be that, like in the eastern portion of the district, we have one name because that's all that is there, but, yeah.
I guess I'd also like to just kind of throw out that if we were to really have something that was skewed, what's the worst thing that would happen? We've created this language because we do know that it can get off, it can be an issue. If you were to have people show up who are all not interested in this, or who are in an area that's growing a lot, and they want to put all the money where we're growing a lot and only where we're growing a lot, that would skew things. But ultimately, this isn't so much about making the decisions, it's reviewing the decisions. And I think that really is an important point here, because if this truly was to be all retirees who all have financial background, great. If this were to be all parents who all lived in a neighborhood, but they're going to review this to make sure that it meets the bond criteria, great. Like, the odds of that happening are slim anyway, but if that were to happen, it's not as if they're making the decisions, they're reviewing the decisions. They're a voice to be just, to say, yes, we're doing what we said we were going to be doing, and if we're not, we need to understand more about it. That
Can I make maybe a recommendation that could balance both sides is,
Yes, please.
what if we, for the two upper categories, so the business and financial and TST representatives, those could be board selected, we can redact the name. That could just be that. So you're only selecting, even if we increase it, say that we do 4 and 2, you're then looking through 8 applications. And then we just blind draw everyone else.
I think if I could try to be quick.
Go ahead, Mike.
So just a couple comments to that, and I don't want to keep complicating, because I understand you're going to have to interpret everything and come back. But I think I want to just reflect on a comment that President Boyd made a few minutes ago about kind of, we did it before and it was okay. And I think that in some degree, I think, maybe that I agree as a process moving forward. But I feel like as a committee that we need to be more outward facing, as kind of, I really believe that as a district into the community. And I think given what's happening at the state level, what's happening at the federal level, we're going to have to rely more and more on the taxpayers, local taxpayers, to fund education. And so to the extent that we can get people involved, actively, meaningfully involved, is going to be really important, because these are the ambassadors in the community for us in the next 5 years, 6 years. And if we wait a month, I mean, it's the bond is, we're going to be spending it over the next 6, 7 years. So what's a few weeks or a month? I'm not, I want to be respectful, but my point that I'm leading to is there a magic number with 16? I mean, if there's 5 business people that want to dedicate their time, I hate to say no. And if there's 10 parent, could we expand it? And I know it's a little bit more of a burden on staff, but.
No, and honestly, this is a flashback to 8 years ago when we started this. It was the same type of conversation. And this was the outcome that board said, here's just some general framework that we can do moving forward. So
I recognize it's contrary to my earlier opinion
Right.
about large boards. My inconsistency is. Yeah.
But it maybe, yeah, so we can do any of that. There's 100 different ways we can do this. Looking at other districts, ours is more, so the other thing I did was look at other districts, say how did you do this? Ours is way more robust than other districts. I can say districts that pass billions of dollars of bonds don't have this robust of a process and or reporting mechanism. So, even there, we're kind of leading the way in this. So that's why a suggestion, the way I can do it anyway, is to simplify what, all the pieces and just split it in half, and we look at
one of
half
the-
and blind draw half.
Todd, would you repeat your suggestion?
Just let's say, for example, we do 4 business background, keep 2 parent representatives. Those numbers can be anything. Those then 8 applications that we have for that would be reviewed by the board. Everything else, so the other 36 applications then would just be blind drawn. So you would blind draw community and citizen at large. And we could break the community up if we needed to.
Yeah, President Boyd, may I? So I think what you're proposing is a good solution. What I will say, though, is that I do not agree that the parent group should be kept at 2. Business, if you want to keep it at 4, that's fine. Then the parents should be at 4, but I don't think we should have less. We should only have 2 parents, and then, yes, everybody else just be blind draw because it's very at large, or it's the regional. I think that does make sense, and I would support that proposal that you just put forth if we did 4 parent, 4 business, and everybody else is blind draw.
Others? Lori, go ahead.
And since you've already seen them, my guess, if there were 4 business financial and then 4 parent, my guess is we would probably have all 4 of those areas covered as well, correct? That there would be some overlap, so that blind draw on the other 8 would be effective.
Correct, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So if there's, I gather a sense of comfort maybe with the idea of redacting names for those specific categorical at a 4-and-4 ratio, asking the board to review just those applications. The rest would go into a blind draw pool. So at the February study session, the applications would be provided to the board, so you have time to look through those specific applications, maybe ask any additional questions about process, any of that at the study session. At the regular meeting, we would do the typical thing where people would make motions for individuals that they would want to fill specific positions, seconds, voting to fill those positions, and then after that's completed, there would be a blind draw for the remaining positions. Is there any strong opposition to that plan? You want to do ranked choice voting? Yeah. Any strong concerns with that, Denise?
Only I totally understand financial expertise being something we would want to review, but you're a better parent than this parent, and I don't know that we need to review the parent ones.
Yeah.
I share that concern.
And I will tell you that you're not going to get much of that information out of the application anyway. The information they're sharing is really why they want to be a participant on the committee. So they aren't talking necessarily about their parenting styles or their beliefs. It's really why I want to be involved with the CBOC committee.
Would all of the board members review all of the 8, or pardon me, choose all of the 8 roles that we're talking about, the 4 business or 4 parents? Could we split it some way so that some of us would be looking at the business applications and some would be looking at the parent applications? No? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the applications, they're not, it's not a robust application. It's basically, why do you want to be here? So it's that type of reading. And there's a few that are lengthy and there's some that are a sentence.
Do you feel that there's time for us to do that at a study session?
I think we narrow it down, even if there's concern about yes, there is.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. Yes.
So one of the things Todd and I can work together and look at kind of writing up what we believe we have heard about this process and then sharing that back out with the whole board so that you kind of know what to expect in the February study session.
Prior to the study session?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Everybody okay with that? Yes? Yes, everybody? Okay. All right, and you understand what your charge is?
Yeah, clear
All
as
right, thank
the
you.
sky, yeah.
All right, Before we move to written reports, I noticed something tonight during the, as I was looking through the agenda from our study session, something that's not on the agenda for tonight, but was on the study session agenda, and that was 6.2 from the study session called Board Committee Membership. And so I'm
Yeah, so you have decided that there's no voting or action required for those committee memberships. I know there was some conversation offline about one committee, but again, that's not an action that the board takes, so we can work. We've really already settled all of those. We do have one conversation maybe to have offline about one of the committees.
All right. So I guess this is a question I have then, Dr. Heller. So something that's on the study session discussion item doesn't necessarily have to be part of the regular business meeting agenda?
Not necessarily. Often, that is the case, where we're putting things in
I
the
don't
study
remember a
session.
time when that hasn't been the case, and that's why I'm asking the question.
So discussion for upcoming
I said,
meeting.
I don't remember that.
Discussion for upcoming meetings always goes forward for a board vote. Discussion items only do not go forward for a board vote. And it's been like that since
Right.
you guys decided.
No, I knew it wasn't coming up for a vote, but I don't recall that something has ever been dropped off the study session agenda and then not be part of the,
If it's a discussion item, it does not go forward to the next meeting. If
Okay.
it's a discussion item for upcoming meetings, it does.
all right. Okay. Do we need to have, Dr. Heller, any discussion related to board committee membership then, or are we finished with that?
Nope, we are good.
We're finished with that. Okay. All right. Then, agenda item number 8, the written reports. Are there any written reports to be presented tonight? No. Board, any requests for information? All right. Meeting adjourned.